It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Rene are here. We're going to have our last chance to take a guess at what Apple's going to announce in 2 days. There is a big Apple event. We think new Macs, find out what that could mean. And right in the middle of the show, the first leaked images of the new hardware. So you're going to hear about that. We'll also talk about how portrait mode works. And I think sometime during the show, Apple's quarterly earning results for Q4 will be out. Rene will have his lightning-fast instant analysis. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 530, recorded Tuesday, October 25th, 2016. Heterogeneous ear holes. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Hover. Finding the perfect domain name is incredibly easy with Hover. Go to hover.com and use a promo code MacBreak at checkout to save 10% off your first purchase. And by Texture, the mobile app that lets you access the world's most popular magazines anytime, anywhere using your phone or tablet. For your free trial, visit texture.com/twit. And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. Hey, the band is back together again, kids. Rene Ritchie has returned from his jaunt. We had all sorts of theories. Did you come down here and get briefed? That's what I thought was going on.
No. I had a meeting in New York that was very last minute that I had to get to, and I couldn't arrange the travel that it matched up with the schedule. I apologize.
Cool. No need to apologize, but we sure miss you when you're not here. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Likewise.
We appreciate it. And also Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Renee's from imore.com. Andy's going to join us on Thursday as we do the live stream thing from the Apple event. The Apple event invites went out. And you got one, Rene, I know, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about it.
It's gonna. Nobody thought there was gonna be another event. In fact, when they had the event last for the iPhone SE back in March, they made it sound like they were gonna roll Town Hall, which is the Cupertino Infinite Loop Campus Auditorium, into mothballs afterwards. That it was sort of the end of that era. But WWDC came and went, and the iPhone event came and went, and we hadn't got new Macs yet. So one more time, doing an encore, final presentation, hello again, which harkens back to the original Mac and the hello bracket of the iMac.
Oh, that's right. That's the first thing that the Macintosh said when Steve Jobs pulled it out of that bag.
Yeah.
Hello.
I thought they were going to get Rick Ocasek to play.
Hello again.
Hello again.
It'll be Adele now.
So interesting. Do you think that? What does that mean? You think?
I think it's just it's tipping their hand that it's going to be a Mac-centric event. I mean, some people would want iPads this time of year because the previous October events, Apple did iPads alongside the Mac, but it sounds like iPads might be you never say never, but it sounds like that might be a spring thing, and we'll most likely get the new MacBooks, the 13-inch and 15-inch, and maybe a slightly larger MacBook. The MacBook, the Manager Book MacBook.
Actually, I will not be here. Somebody's reminding me. I'll be in Gainesville. We're going out there to visit IT Pro TV. They're having the grand opening of their new studio that day. So, and that was planned a long time ago before Apple, because Apple waits to the last minute. It was a week and a day ago that Apple sent out the invite. So, Andy, you're going to have to anchor with Megan and who else do we have, Karsten, doing that? Do you know? And Alex. Alex Lindsay will be here. Awesome. So, I'll be watching.
With Alex and Lindsay, Alex and Megan, I'm definitely the anchor that will bring everything down. So that's a very appropriate use of phrase.
Because and there's a funny story because Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, I think it was Mary Jo Foley who was telling me last week that Microsoft wanted also to have an October hardware event, but they obviously nobody, including Microsoft, wants to have an event the same day as Apple's event. You won't get any press. So but Apple doesn't say. So they read the tea leaves, and the tea leaves were that Apple moved correct me if I'm wrong. They moved their an analyst call to today.
Yes.
From Thursday. And so the tea leaves were, that must mean they're thinking they're going to have an event on Thursday, right? Because you want to have the call.
I mean, they could have had an event on Tuesday and left the call on Thursday, but it's better for them to get the call out of the way so that the call doesn't hit the news cycle after the products.
So that's what Microsoft's thinking. So they said, all right, well, we don't want to be after the Apple event. Let's do it Wednesday. So they kind of threw a dart at the calendar. They picked Wednesday, and it worked out. So I will be here. That's why I'm confused. I'll be here tomorrow morning at 7 my time, 7 a.m. for the Microsoft event in New York City.
Actually, I'll be at the event, the New York event tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I did get an invite to that one. I got a phone call for that one.
We're splitting coast and splitting duty. It's a team.
Exactly.
Apple needs
Squad
to
goals.
think twice about its strategy here. Now, admittedly, this will probably be the last one at Town Hall they call it in Cupertino?
Yeah, but it's also brutal. Like, I feel bad for my colleagues who cover both because they have to cover the Microsoft event, do all their filing, get on a plane, go all the way, across country, get to Cupertino, do that, and then try to cover both. It's not the easiest thing.
And this is a small, couple of 100-seat venue.
Yeah.
It's not huge.
Yeah. You have the town hall, and then you have the piano bar, which is inside the media reception area, which is where they do the demos and things.
So they'll have a demo area. They do have a demo area, big enough space.
Typically,
to have a demo area.
And they got an upstairs for catering, and so it's a kitted out place. It's also a place where they have like large all hands meetings because it will hold a couple hundred people, and it's a very controllable space.
I do believe the
if it is the last
invitation
one.
said a cafe breakfast would be made available.
They typically do that. I mean, for every company that I've been to a press event for, there's some
Give
form
you
of
stale Danish.
Yeah.
And coffee.
They're good. They have like vegan wraps and things. It's exactly what you'd expect from
Does Apple have
catering.
better food at their events?
I don't know about better. I mean, usually the worse the company does, the better their food budget becomes because they really want to get
right.
It's like CES. They really want to get people in there.
Apple need not lure anybody.
It's not the food they're showing up for.
No. All right, let's talk about what we think they're going to announce. And it seems like, you correct me if I'm wrong, that the best information is currently coming out of KGI and Ming-Chi Kuo, and that's because he has access to the supply chain in China. And
yeah, once the stuff is being built, he's really solid.
Yeah, that means you can keep leaks from ever coming out of Cupertino, but it's pretty hard to keep leaks coming out of China.
Yeah, when there's millions of chassis coming off an assembly line.
Somebody's going to snap a picture of it for a few $1,000. So
put it up on Weibo.
He says, although this is puzzling to me, so I want you to clarify, a refresh of the MacBook, not the Air. He says the Air is gone.
Yeah.
But they're going to take the MacBook, which is currently at a 12-inch, and do a 13-inch. Is that going to be side by side, so there'll be a smaller and a larger MacBook? Is that what you think?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, they did that with the MacBook Air. They have the 9 and they have the 13-inch, which is admittedly a bigger difference. And also the 9 is 16 by 9, and the 13 is 16 by 10. So they're quite different screens in those. But the MacBook for a while has been 13 and 15, and Apple seems to like 2 screen sizes for every device. And the MacBook, and by that again I mean the Manager Book, the one that's very sleek and runs a Core M processor and is just MacBook nothing at the end of it. Right now only has one size, and it was expensive enough to make it in that size that you probably want to introduce it the same way the original MacBook Air was introduced, one computer in that envelope. And then as time goes on and the components become easier and you sort of validate that market, you add a second size. And it doesn't sound like it's much of a difference, and it's going to depend exactly on 12 point what and 13 point what. But when you look at a 4.7-inch iPhone compared to a 5.5-inch iPhone, or even a 38 compared to a 42-millimeter watch, the difference can be noticeable when they're side by side.
But what makes a Mac?
Go
ahead, Danny.
Because you're talking about a diagonal, so you're talking about one dimension times another dimension in terms of screen area. And yeah, it's and also I think that also reflects the fact that a lot of people are really shifting a lot of their work onto larger phones and tablets. So there are a lot of people that are now looking at a 13-inch notebook and thinking, "Gosh, that's kind of big. I wish they made like a 9-inch notebook. Maybe not that bad, but I think the drive is to get smaller rather than to go to 15 inches."
And what distinguishes the MacBook from the MacBook Pro is weight, thinness, size, essentially, right?
And platform. They're running Core M instead of Core 2.
Yeah.
It's a more mobile platform. Does that mean better battery? Well, no, because it's so small, the battery can't be.
It means
as
no
big.
fan. I mean, for Apple at this point, it means no fan. You can run a Core M without a fan.
And probably a single Type-C connector, or will they? I think they're stuck. They've really.
You think they'll splurge, Leo? You think they'll splurge and go for 2?
I'd love to see one on both sides. That's what Google did with the Chromebook Pixel, and that's just more convenient.
Yeah,
The 12-inch was.
I have no direct information, but they got enough crap about the one port, and also it is enough of a sticking point. There really is no solution around that one port that goes on to here's another piece of crap you have to put in your bag just to be able to charge it while have it powered up or recharging it while you're doing something else with a peripheral. And it seems as though there is room in there to put a second connector, given what we understand from like the iFixit teardown of what's on the logic board. It's not as though the controller there is set to support only one USB-C connector. So long as they can get the cable routing, so long as they can put it in a place where it's not going to interfere with any of the other radios, they can get it in. And I think that's going to be the thing that gets a lot of people who were very interested in the MacBook but were put off by the one port to say, yep, I'm glad I waited. I'm definitely buying this one.
One thing you could do is take the headphone microphone jack out.
Yeah.
So the thing for me, Leo, is that I think that regardless of, they deliberately did one port. Now you could think that they wanted to make a Mac that was as much like an iPad as possible, or they really, what Phil Schiller said, they were all in on wireless, and the port is the only concession to that because you still have to charge it efficiently, and wireless charging isn't efficient yet, even if it does work. So they had to have one port, and they might as well make it a universal port. But they were all in on it. This is an iPad in Mac clothes, basically, and it's embracing the wireless future. But when you go bigger in size, you could say, yeah, well, we decided, you wanted another port. We're going to give you another port. The headphone jack, again, it depends on how far they want to go in on this wireless world. But this is designed to be that computer where it weighs almost nothing. It is the closest thing to a tablet that you can get that runs Mac OS. And for me, the biggest sticking point was never the USB-C thing. I was fine with that because I've worked off a MacBook Pro and I was fine. It's the Core M processor. I think Intel, I don't think they're keeping up with things like, what Apple's doing with the A10 and what they're going to do with the 811 processor. So for me, a bigger computer running that chip, I hope it has a better solution for running, especially graphics and everything else off a larger version of that computer.
Yeah, but we also
M3
can't ignore the fact. Sorry. We also can't ignore the fact that remember that a couple of years ago, the MacBook Nothing it is the thing that nobody can possibly complain about because, look, we are keeping the entire product line as it is. We are simply adding this other thing. If you think that this is a freakish thing that has way too many compromises to be practical, that's fine. Don't buy it. You still get your MacBook Airs. But looks like we're angling closer and closer to the day where the MacBook Air is not designed to have all those radical re-engineering changes that are going to be necessary to give it the kind of display to make it fit in with anything else that Apple's making. So clearly, the MacBook Air is close to end of life at this point. And so we're moving into a world in which the MacBook Nothing will now have the place in the lineup of being that $1,000 or $900 entry level Mac, the one that when you walk into a store and say, I've got money, I will not tell you about my needs or my wants. I will just simply say, I need to buy a notebook right now. That's the default MacBook they will try to sell you. And at that point, you don't get a coffee saying, but let me show you this video. It's a wireless world and we have to be prepared for it. Then I say, yeah, that's bull. I need more than one port on this thing. So at that point, you really have to have an incredibly wonderful excuse not to put in at least a second port there. So I would expect to see a doubling of ports.
All right, you heard it here first.
The interesting thing to me is that when the MacBook Air, the original one, came out, again, it was expensive, it was underpowered, it had very few ports. But when they introduced the second size, they went to the second design, the one that we still have now. It was a major transformation, and it let them go down to the prices that knocked the original MacBook off the menu. And I was expecting them to sort of, when they would go to the second size, they would go to the second version, and it would get less expensive, and it would be the same thing that knocks the MacBook Air out. But it looks like they're willing to go to that second size much earlier than they were with the MacBook Air line. I think that's super interesting.
This is good. I like it. And the Air really is it's done. I mean, it's the low res screen alone, kind of. Unless they were to make a Retina display, I think this makes sense. Instead of a wedge, it's thin, it's light, and as you mentioned, no fan, slower processor as a result, but also lower price as a result. So those are the factors that make the MacBook popular. Now let's move to the MacBook Pro because we haven't had an update for this for a while, and I'm ready. This is a 2012
18 months
MacBook I'm using here, 15-inch. There will be a 13 and a 15, By the way, this is a little bit confirmed because Apple has now applied for trademarks in Russia for 3 new models, the 1706, 1707, and 1708. No other information with the filing, but when you file for 3 model numbers, that means 3 new SKUs. And so the other two would be presumably MacBook Pros. What do we know about those? 13 and 15? Modern processors?
Yeah.
Would they be Skylake or Kaby Lake? I mean, what are we? Skylake, right?
Apple's usually conservative with the processors because like people think they just buy stock parts and stick them in there, but they don't. They typically work very closely with Intel and do a lot of integration to get the features working the way they want them to. And I don't think there's that much lead time on Kaby Lake. I mean, you never know. They could have been working on it secretly, or at least behind the scenes for a long time and surprise us. But we're not really on Skylake.
Does that hurt a little bit? Yeah. I mean, they could just say, well, we're going to go skip Skylake, go from Haswell to Kaby Lake. But does that hurt to release a machine with Skylake, given that Kaby Lake is out? PC, you
no,
get a
I mean,
PC laptop
so again,
with
I
Kaby
wouldn't
Lake.
say so. No.
No, because Mac people don't care.
Well, they don't care, and that's a good thing. You also don't care what kind of USB controller chip. You only care about why is it slow when I try to connect this sort of storage into this sort of storage. So long as Apple can make the case that here's how fast this thing actually cooks. No one's going to care whether it's because it's got the latest generation Intel processor or the next latest generation processor. They can do things with the type of memory they're using. They can do things with the data path. They can do things with optimization. They do things with code compression that nobody cares about the CPU. They only care about how fast the damn thing is. So long as this thing can cook, so long as they can make the typical MacBook Pro user happy, and these are people who they're not willing to trade off. These are not people who are willing to watch a new video about why it only needs 1 port. They need this thing to be a workhorse. They need this thing out plowing fields 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so long as they can deliver that level of performance with very few trade-offs, no one's going to care what number it is.
Maybe it's just PC.
The metric has changed.
PC buyers that care about Kaby Lake or pay attention to that mostly.
Because
there are Asus, Acer, HP, Dell. They all have Kaby Lake processors.
Right. And Intel works really, really closely with Microsoft, a lot more closely than people really understand, to make sure that their operating system works really well with the next generation of CPUs. But all these makers, they really are in the position where they can't really afford to put the kind of performance tuning into one specific model that Apple can put into their MacBooks, because they are competing against 6, 7, 8, 9 different makers, and that is one metric that a lot of people are looking for. They know that in the Windows world, it's a very, very important thing to say that this has the latest generation CPU, because that will be a distinction between an Asus and an Acer and an HP and 2 or 3 other models. Apple is making the one MacBook that you can possibly buy. If you don't want this MacBook, congratulations, you're now running Linux or you're now running Windows or Next OS, whatever it is you're getting to run on that thing. So it's not quite as important, but it is important on a Windows machine that you be able to at least say this is the highest performance CPU that you can buy.
Yeah, and the metric has changed because in the old days, it really was about pure speed. And you would hear the companies talk about the speed and how many megahertz or gigahertz it was every year. And now the metric has mostly become battery life and power. It's gone from power to power efficiency. And what you hear is 8 hours of battery life or 10 hours of battery life. Yeah. And we're not getting the huge gains anymore on Intel chips that we used to, like the speed differential between Broadwell and Haswell and Skylake and Kaby Lake and Coffee Cake, or Coffee Lake, which I think is slid in between that and Cannon Lake, which is after that. You don't see as much speed. It's about the architecture and about the power efficiency and about other features. And Apple has never cared about chipsets. They care about feature sets. And if they're looking at things like Touch ID, then the question's not how much faster will this MacBook go? It's how on earth do we secure the fingerprint sensor to Intel, to the secure enclave, to Intel, to Mac OS. And that's a much thornier problem to solve than whether it's 3% or 5% or even 10% faster anymore.
Kaby Lake also better power profiles, yes?
Yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't be surprised to see a MacBook with Kaby Lake just for that, but maybe not. We'll see. The big changes though were going to be mostly ports and cosmetics. So let's talk. We all, I think, have all heard the rumor about it. Oh, yeah. Yes, you disagree?
Well, no, and we'll not disagree, but also think about there's been a rumor that the super flat keyboards that's in the MacBook Nothing and the new key switch design they have, they'll make that line wide. So even if you buy a MacBook Pro, you will get that. It's a rumor. It's something to be discussed.
Not true. I do not like. And by the way, I don't even think it's a requirement of the platform, because so that does, by the way, kind of confirm your theory, Andy, because they like these keys and I don't like them. I make lots of mistakes on the MacBook. I have a HP Spectre 13, which is exactly the same thinness. Actually, it's a little thinner than the MacBook, and it has full travel keys. I much prefer it. So I'll be very disappointed if the new MacBooks have that MacBook key. Those are not great keys.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just me?
We'll wait. Well, it's I like Jim. We've talked about this with Jim Dalrymple, and Jim loves. I'm not going to speak for him, but I've heard him say that he loves the keyboard on his MacBook. I mean, it's not. It's an objective. It's a subjective thing from user to user to user. You've heard me say this time and time again. It's not that I am opposed to a flat profile keyboard. I don't like them myself, but it's not like I'm religiously opposed to them. But I think that there has to be a reason why you gave me that flat profile keyboard. And if on Thursday, if Tim is saying that this is the thinnest $3,000 laptop we've ever made, like, I really don't care that you managed to get 2 more millimeters off the case, because it's Apple. Just for me, the one thing that's kind of global about Apple products that I really worry about is that anything that is a controllable thing that you put your hands on that is not a multi-touch thing, wow, they've got some form of some blind spot right there, because they don't design a mouse that's really good. They don't design a remote control for the Apple TV that's really good. And I think that kind of a blind spot would lead them to say, and well, look how we designed the switch. Look, we have numbers, we have data that says that no matter where you hit the switch, it's beautiful. The fact that people that a lot of people like a keyboard with a little bit of travel. It's I'll say this, and this is not an announcement, but it's something that kind of a chill ran up my spine when I had this realization 3 or 4 months ago, that I finally it was out of the blue. I had the realization that I can actually now imagine a scenario in which the next notebook I buy is not a MacBook and it's a Windows machine, and it would be if Apple decides to go with this keyboard that I don't like line wide, and there is no way I can buy a MacBook that does not have that keyboard. And that at that point, I would say, okay, I got $1,500 to $2,000. Let's see what Windows notebooks are out there. And I would look at 3 or 4 candidates, and there might be one with a really great keyboard that I really enjoy writing on. Again, given that at times I spend a minimum of 4 hours and a maximum of like 11 to 12 hours typing on this MacBook, on this notebook, it's such an important thing that they can't really cut any corners there. They have to really give me a good keyboard. And that's the thing that would send me, I don't prefer Windows to Mac OS, but I do prefer this keyboard, and I can't tell my fingertips, but let's talk about security and privacy and software updates. I don't care. I hate how this feels.
Yeah, usability is fundamental. I mean, I think that's a fundamental thing. And admittedly, you said it's subjective. Some people like it. You and I agree on that.
I don't think we've seen the end of the evolution either. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't exactly the same as a MacBook, but better, or at least their next evolution.
What is it that makes it? I think it's the lack of travel that makes it inaccurate for me, anyway. I'm not sure why it's inaccurate for me.
Again,
Rene, do you like it? Do you like the MacBook? You don't care.
Within 5 minutes, I can use almost any. I use the Mac. I moved from iPad Pro to 13-inch MacBook Pro to the MacBook every week, and I notice a difference immediately on all of them. It just, one feels loose and slippery, one feels tight, they all feel different. But then within 5 minutes, I don't care anymore.
I would like to pinpoint why I can't. And where accuracy really matters to me is in passwords, and I hate having to retype passwords because I mistyped, and it happens to me all the time on the MacBook. I do love this. Go ahead.
I switch a lot too. I mean, I bought like a really nice like mechanical keyboard last year, and oh my God, do I love this!
Right, I bought
like
one too because you recommended it.
Right, And this is I use the Big Brother version of this keyboard on my iPad, the Logitech K811, which is actually better than the keyboard in my current MacBook. So it's actually more comfortable to type on my iPad. So it's not I can switch from one to the other. And there are times where I actually will use a compact keyboard. I'm thinking about going super lightweight tomorrow and taking just like my iPad Mini and a super compact keyboard. So I can switch from one to the other, but I don't like to be forced into this is the only keyboard that we're going to let you have, and this is not something that you particularly like. Again, it's great. It's great on the MacBook Nothing because you really do have to make trade-offs to make it that thin and get that much battery inside the damn thing. So that's perfectly great. But we go back to the thing that I keep saying that again, it's the scenario where I win one of those $500 million Powerballs lottery. I walk into the Apple store. I'm trailed by personal assistants who are ordered to like have a wheelbarrow filled with bags of money at all times. And I march into the Apple store and say, I want the greatest MacBook you make. Money is no object. $40, $50, $60, $100,000. I don't care. And they hand me this MacBook. I said, yeah, but it doesn't have ports. And the keyboard is really flat. And yeah, but I said, I'll give you $100,000 for the best one you can make. And it's like, that's not really it doesn't really look like an impressive pro machine. It looks like you took the MacBook Air, made it a little bit bigger, and let me upgrade the RAM. So that's the only thing that concerns me.
OLED, let's change the subject.
Yeah.
Function keys are going to be, according to rumor, replaced by an OLED screen. That's now, correct me, Rene, if you think this isn't what we're going to see, but one gets the impression that if you put an OLED screen there, that it will be programmable, that you will have function keys that are specific to the programs you're using. And I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a long-term project, like in a multi-stage project where they want to make things more dynamic. If you have an iPad for a long time since the iPhone, that keyboard could become anything. It could change languages. It could become numerical. It could become a gamepad, anything. But a physical keyboard, it can't change. And you saw people complain a lot when the iPad Pro keyboard was available in U.S. English for a long time, but not international. Right. And what do you do with a laptop? So part of that is you replace the function keys with this magic bar or whatever they end up, the magic strip, whatever they end up calling it, and that allows it to become dynamic. So instead of just having like the F1 to the F8 or having the media controls and the brightness controls there, you can pull up context-specific controls. At first, in the Apple apps, but they'll announce an API, and developers will be able. So Final Cut will have theirs, and Logic Pro will have theirs, and Adobe will have theirs.
Those are the apps that benefit the most, the Pro apps.
Well, going forward, I mean, like the rumor is that this is going to move completely to e-ink within 2 or 3 years on Apple's side, and then the keys will be able to entirely change.
Oh, then Andy and I will really be upset.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, the new Yoga laptop that's a Windows 10 or Android that has a fully glass keyboard. That's an interesting concept, particularly that makes it an interesting form factor that's totally different. If you imagine that, yes, there will be a future version that it's actually multi-touch and has an actual OLED surface instead of just being a sheet of glass that you type on. That's fascinating, and especially if you have the idea of remember that Microsoft concept book that never made it, even though it looked great. Just the idea of having a folding book with exactly. Thank you. I couldn't remember it. With 2 screens, like if you hold it this way, it can be a keyboard. If you hold it this other way, it can be an actual book. You hold it another way, you can have a 2-screen. It's an interesting way to live, and I hope that I hope that manufacturers start thinking big that way instead of just thinking how can we get another 1.5 millimeters off the case design. It's like that's nice, but we can do better. But I love the idea of a reconfigurable OLED strip. That is such a brilliant idea. Even if the first one we see is not quite as ambitious as some of the mock-ups we've been seeing in Mac blogs, they could be just putting it there to say, let's lock down, figure out how we can make this, figure out how to make it durable, and then we will make this an Apple-only software feature at the beginning, and then we'll figure out what makes sense to allow developers to do with it, because such a neat idea. It's immediately compelling. And you don't see it on other machines.
The e-ink idea, I was assuming would be like a glass keyboard. It would just be an e-ink screen. No, it would be
a regular key.
But it'd be regular keys with e-ink.
The caps would basically be changeable. Have changeable e-ink caps, yeah.
Yeah, that's intriguing, too. Dr. Mom had an interesting point on keyboard. She says, older folks want more travel, want more physicality, and are used to non-changing keys because that's how we learn to type. But the younger generation is much more comfortable with the idea of these short travel keys, e-ink on keys.
I like it because my
programmable keys.
RSI likes it better. Like I just like Gravity to do all the work.
Yeah.
I've got too many injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't use
Don't
big
push so
clicky
hard.
clackety keyboards anymore.
So that will be the most, if that, and I like your name, what is it, Magic Toolbar?
Magic Strip or Magic Bar. I mean, there's been a few
Magic Bar.
trademarks Apple's fired, and you never know because they can change their mind until they announce it.
But they have the Magic Trackpad and the Magic Mouse. The Magic Bar makes a lot of sense. And that cosmetically, and I think this is something to be that Apple would absolutely consider, makes it distinctive. And you look at it, and you go, oh, that's the new MacBook. You need something like that. You really want something like that. And they haven't had something like that in a while.
Well, that's the thing too, is that all their designs, like every Ultrabook looks like a MacBook Air. A lot of bigger computers look like MacBooks now, and to them, it's just not interesting to put to just do a spec bump anymore. They always want every few years for MacBooks to be bleeding edge again.
Yeah. So there also is the port issue. What ports, Rene, do you expect at this point?
USB-C / Thunderbolt 3 because they have the same interconnect.
And you get that, you get Skylake chipset gives you Thunderbolt 3.
Yeah.
So eliminate. No, are we going to eliminate the SD card reader?
I hope not. I mean, I still find it useful. I know people can put a little dongle in there, but actually, I take that back. I found it useful up until I got an iPhone 7 Plus, and I haven't taken my DSLR out since. But I think when you have a Pro machine, people expect those kinds of features.
Yeah, I like having an SD card reader. I really do.
And that's one of the reasons why you carry around a larger machine, fewer inconveniences. So I hope this might be I'm not sure if they'll come through with this, but I hope they find a way to retain on the MacBook Pros at least one full-sized USB 3 connector, because again, if you're stuck without a USB 3.0 to regular dongle, wow, are you screwed? And that's such it would be like coming up with a new light bulb standard, where I know it's amazingly better. It's more compact. It's great for LEDs. It's great for addressability, but you need a light bulb. You've got 1 million light bulbs that will fit in there. You don't want to go out and get an adapter when you're sitting in the dark.
I can see USB-Courage t-shirts already.
And use the Type-C instead of a MagSafe.
Yeah, I think Andy
MagSafe
explained that really well last time.
Save the space. All right, this is all exciting. Somebody's asking in the chat room, this is an interesting question. Does the OLED work before the OS boots, or does it probably not, right? It's probably just a dark strip until you're up and running.
I'd be shocked if they didn't have as part of the bootloader some sort of flourish that happens in that display. I really think that as designers and as people who like to do things that are cool and delight people, the idea of just having this beautiful little transition that comes up and simply says, "Welcome." What a great place to re-put "Welcome to Macintosh" that disappeared a while ago.
Hello again.
The interesting thing for me too is what are they going to do for graphics? Because right now there's Intel integrated Iris graphics in all the MacBook Pros except for the very, very highest end 15-inch MacBook Pro, and that has option for an ATI Radeon card. Some people really like this discrete graphics, and there's been rumors for a while that Apple's been working with AMD, and I keep forgetting it starts with a V what the name of their new graphics platform is. But I'd like to see something really, because graphics are becoming increasingly important in all the operating systems.
GPU, and not just for pros, although the MacBook Pro is a pro model, and frankly, with Apple, according to Ming Chi Kuo, putting off updates on the iMacs till next year, and nobody said anything about a Mac Pro in a while, like 3 years.
The iMacs are interesting because the iMac already has like everything. I would like P3 to be in the MacBook Pro display, because once you get used to a P3 display, and I have it on this iMac, I have it on my iPad Pro.
That's the thing that
iPhone
makes it
now.
5K and.
You want it. Well, the P3 is a wide color gamut. So you
the
get
gamut,
better
the gamut.
magenta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want that everywhere now because it makes the rest look dull. That's the worst thing about technology, is it instantly makes your brain adapts to the new immediately and thinks the old is garbage right away.
Yeah.
And having that kind of stuff is great, and that all needs like the graphics and things to drive it.
In fact, that's the other rumor. Of course, we've been talking about a GPU.
The iMac, I was going to just
go ahead.
So I was going to say with the iMac, there's a couple challenges there. One is it's already 5K. It's already got a P3 display, and Intel didn't even make an integrated graphics chip that would go in the 21.5-inch iMac last year. So what they do with that, there's the 27-inch Skylake, the the 21.5 inch is still on Broadwell. So that's an entirely different story. And the Mac Pro makes zero sense. But when you look at what Intel does with Xeons, and when you look at what chip foundries are, when you make mobile chips, that's a real lucrative business. When you start making one-offs for very small batch computers, that's not always what a factory wants to dedicate its fab to. So I understand. I still think it's not forgivable that you sealed it as an appliance and that you haven't updated it in 3 years. But it just feels like time. Like they have to do it. They have to just bring that thing out of mothballs.
They do it Thursday?
I hope so. I mean, either cut it off or improve it.
And do you agree that the iMacs won't be Thursday, that they'll be later? Actually, I'm running into this same, the chat room's reminding me, confusion when Ming-Chi Kuo says next year, he might mean next fiscal year, which would be now, right? We're in the fourth quarter.
November, December.
Yeah, November, December. So do you think he means that, or does he mean 20? I think he means 20. I think he's saying 2017.
They've done it in October for the last 2 years. Yeah. So, and again, it just depends on what they do. If they spec bump it, like are the chipsets ready that they would need to put in those iMacs? You know, that means Kaby Lake, the big one, and whatever they figure out to do with the small one.
Right. That's what's holding it up. And then, of course, that long-rumored cinema display with the GPU, the 5K cinema display.
I want it so badly.
What would you attach it to? Your iMac as a second display?
Maybe, yeah. I think once you have that 5K display, it's hard to have anything that doesn't match. And also, I have a Thunderbolt display in my other room. Like this, I have a standing desk in the other room, like this one, and it just has the Thunderbolt display. And I plug my MacBook in there when I want to work, and I have, I'm cooking or I have people over, and I don't want to be sequestered off in the studio. And I'd love the idea of taking that new MacBook Pro home, plugging it in, and suddenly having that be the equivalent of a 5K iMac. Yeah,
the MacBook Pro docks so nicely. You don't need a dock, in effect, especially with a Type-C connector and Thunderbolt 3. That would be a nice thing, just to come sit down, plug one cable in. And not only you have a keyboard, Mac monitor, and mouse, but you also could have drive arrays and all sorts of other Thunderbolt devices.
Their backup drive, everything could just be connected.
Yeah.
That's attractive.
A lot of the math is a lot of the math has changed in the past 2 or 3 years. I mean, I spoke about thinking about, if it's possible, my next notebook will be a Windows machine, but it's also possible that the next time that I need to spend $1,500 to $2,000 on new hardware, it will be, I'm actually using my iPad Pro for everything that I used to use the MacBook for outside the house. Why don't I put that money into an absolutely top of the line Mac Mini or an iMac and just basically stay with the iPad as my outside the house sort of device.
Interesting.
And there might be people who simply decide to that they will have the wonderful sort of transition where they'll finally your 7-year-old iMac will finally go to that land of ghosts and winds, and they'll say, okay, next month I'll buy. I can't buy it this month. I'll buy it next month, and then they spend the next month suddenly realizing that it turns out that I don't really need a desktop at all. And so that becomes, instead of being really important that Apple keeps coming up with really great desktops, that's what kind of drives people into realizing that the outlandish amount of money they spend on a tablet is now coming back to them in the form of greater usability.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. It's not too far off. Day after tomorrow, we begin our coverage at about 9:45 a.m. Pacific. That's about 12:45 p.m. Eastern Time. It should be very interesting to see.
So excited.
Apple announces, How about availability? Will I be able to buy it that day? Oh, and the AirPods too, right? That's going to be. They'll say, okay, we've got them now.
I mean, I'm not going to spoil my pick of the week, but I mean, it's this week. They said end of October, and I haven't heard anything otherwise.
When else are you going to do it? All right. And then how about the laptops? I'd love to get a new MacBook sooner than later.
Oftentimes, like when the WWDC, when they've announced previous versions of the laptops, and I think even at some of the March events, it's just been available now. It's been different than with the pre-orders and the lining ups and things for the iPhone lineup. So I wouldn't be surprised. Two things go through my head. It depends on how hard. All of this stuff is bound by the logistics. It depends on how hard it is to make them and how many that they can ship. So if they have availability in stores, if they manage to produce enough of them, they'll just say, go to your Apple store and buy them. Right. If they're constrained the way like the Mac Pro was when it first came out, then it could probably be, we're starting to ship them, at X date, and we anticipate to have, enough of them in place by the holidays.
But that's the question. Are the holidays important for a product like this? I mean, do they need to get them in the store by? I mean, if the holidays are important, then they need to make them available pretty darn quick. We're almost there. Are they important? Do they sell a lot more Macs at Christmas?
My understanding is still that you need to have new hardware by April or May when people start making buying decisions for the end of the year, right? Yeah. When corporates basically start approving purchase orders. I don't really think there are a whole lot of people who are getting these high-end machines for Christmas.
No, it's got to be back to school and corporate purchasing. It's got to be like spring and summer. At this point, it's too late. You're not.
Yeah, but there's still a psychological thing. Like if Apple doesn't announce it, then it's like, oh, Apple didn't even get a computer out this year. Right. And usually they want to at least have something there. So people say,
how long have we been saying that?
Yeah. Maybe most of them arrive in January.
Apple's showing remarkable patience, more than its customers, in terms of getting computers.
It's not entirely. This is the thing is like they would love to have these computers. Yeah. If in a perfect world, these would have all shipped at WWDC. And I know it's like customers count more than anybody else, but everyone from Apple retail to the Mac team, they want to sell these computers. It's just
supply chain-ish. It's just an issue of supply chain. And we can't predict that because we don't know.
And again, they do so much integration that could be anything, any delay on Intel's part, any delay on AMD's part, any delay with any of they all become steam. They just snowball from there.
Right. John, it's possible. As you know, I'll be in Gainesville, Florida on Thursday, but you have my permission to buy anything and everything the minute it's available.
Santa Leo.
Let's take a break. We have lots more to talk about, including fourth quarter results coming out, in about 45 minutes, something like that?
Yeah.
An hour and a half?
45 minutes for the press release, and then the conference call is an hour and 15.
So if I make this commercial long enough, maybe when we come back. Our show today brought to you by Hover.com. We love Hover. I still am a huge Hover fan. Recently, Steve Gibson, I thought this was very telling. He wanted to move off of one of the old school domain registrars. This is a company that registers domain names for you, so you can buy a domain name. And because it was time. And I had done this years ago, but Steve, he moves a little slower than the rest of us. So he asked on Twitter, he said, what do you recommend? He looked at all the different companies. He ended up going with Hover.com, and he's been very, very happy. I have two, but there is some urgency in getting that perfect domain name. Over 100 million .com domain names are already registered, and a new domain name is registered every second. So if you're looking for a .com, and let's face it, that's the one people assume. If you say, I'm Joe's Plumber, they don't think joesplumber.info, joesplumber.biz. They think .com, right? I know with Dick, every time I tell everybody Dick's website, gizwiz.biz, I have to explain it's .biz, not .biz.com. It's .biz. Get the .com. When you think of an idea, register it. And the nice thing about Hover is it is as easy as can be to buy a domain name. Incredibly simple. There's no page after page of add-ons that you have to opt out for like those other guys. All Hover sells is domain names and email. So, boom. And, of course, Who is Privacy, which we know everybody wants, is automatic and part of the deal. So they don't have to give you an extra check. No, do you want to hide your domain name? No, it's built in. Once you find the domain, use Hover Connect, and you'll set it up automatically with your website in a few clicks. I've never found it easier. I use Squarespace. It's so easy to make Squarespace and Hover work. It's great. Is that Mark Fraunfelder? Yeah, it is. Boing, boing, right in the middle there. Look at that. You can also use Hover Connect to get a more on-brand or professional email address, which is absolutely the case. If you're still at AOL.com, Joe's Plumbing at AOL.com, or Joe's Plumbing at Yahoo.com, no. No. It's got to be Joe at joesplumbing.com. That's what you want. And if you already have multiple domains on other providers, like Steve did, it's easy. You can save money by bringing them all to Hover with volume discounts. The more domains you have, the more of a discount you automatically get. They will even move it for you if you want. They've got a concierge service that's great. And they're famous for, as they ought to be, their no wait, no hold, no transfer phone service. When you call Hover, you get a real live, nice Canadian person, and they'll talk to you, and they'll get your problem solved without putting you on hold, and I love that. Let me show how easy it is. Once you're in Hover, this is my Hover interface for freelaporte.com. I'm preserving this because someday I may be arrested, and I will want to raise money for my defense with freelaporte.com, right? That was my thinking when I registered this. Automatic renewal, yeah, it's on, so I don't have to worry. I'll get it automatically renewed. Let's see. I have had it since 2014. Transfer lock, that's nice. But see how easy it is to turn that off? You just check a box. Who has privacy on? They've got simple DNS editing. Couldn't be simpler. I'm a big fan. Hover, HOVER.com. Find a .com name for your idea, and if you use the promo code MacBreak at checkout, you'll save 10% off your first purchase. Here's the new Hover Connect feature, which I really like. It makes it so simple if you're using one of these sites to apply, let's say you're a photographer and use 500px, push the button and you'll get your myphotographysite.com hooked up with 500px.com. As easy as pie. And these are all of the different Medium and Squarespace and Tumblr and Weebly and Zibbit. I don't know what Zibbit is, but I like the name. Anyway, easy peasy. You can also get Hover email. Affordable. I use Hover email for myleoville.com, and it's the best way to do it. And, of course, if you want to get in the nitty-gritty, their domain name editor is as easy as can be. And I do this all the time when I've forwarded stuff. And so if you want to do it by hand, if you've done it, you'll look at this and go, oh, yeah. You add a new filter, no problem. Let's say we want to add a CNAME, boom, and it couldn't, boom, 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 paste it in, say save, you're done. 10% off with the UC offer code MacBreak. I am a huge fan. We all are. Hover.com. Get your .com today. Andy, I want to thank you, by the way. I always buy Andy's recommendations. You recommended the YeeCam right before I left for my trip. And this was great. I bought the package with the selfie stick, I'm embarrassed to say. But it was great. I used it all the time. And the 4K video is... Yeah. The only problem with it is so high quality that when I import it into Lightroom, I have to use Premiere or Final Cut to edit it because Lightroom just chokes on it because it's such high bandwidth video. But it looks great. Oh, man, does it look great. So thank you for the recommendation. Yeah, this is nice. I carry it now in my purse.
Exactly. It's part of my daily carry now.
Yeah. Lovely to have.
Looks like Rene and I both saw the same
breakthrough. Bulletin. This is from Mac Rumors. Julie Clover writing, just came out minutes ago. Images of new MacBook Pro with Rene Ritchie, the Mac Magic Toolbar. And apparently it's in Sierra 10.12.1. That's weird, isn't it? What can we deduce from this? Oh, look. It's just like the renders. Fingerprint. Fingerprint.
We're seeing a screen that says Apple Pay and Pay with Touch ID.
Yeah, no, Touch ID is the biggest thing here, and that's what I was talking about in terms of the integration.
And it's right on the Magic Toolbar. There's a little arrow. It says Touch here. Oh, now
Touch
I'm really
ID to pay Apple to pay Apple and then the dollar amount.
Nice.
With a cancel button at the other end of the OLED bar.
Look at that.
When you look at the features that they announced, like everything from the watch unlock to pay with Safari using your iPhone Touch ID, those are all even the Siri stuff. Those are all sort of to support legacy MacBooks because if nobody had access to any of that stuff, they'd be super bummed when the new MacBooks came out. The only thing I'm still wondering is at what point do they get beamforming mics so you can do a bunch of that hey yo Jimbo sort of action on them as well.
That'd be nice too. Notice, is this me or is this the case? This looks narrow. See how narrow those speakers are on the side? This is obviously the 13.
Yeah.
It's just slightly wider than the keyboard itself. Does that seem right? Is that different?
These are supposedly Apple images.
Yeah, these come from Sierra. So
basically, the push here is that there's instructions on how to use Touch ID that includes a look at what appears to be a MacBook Nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a MacBook Pro.
No,
or
this says Pro.
Nothing, no.
This is Pro. See?
Oh, does it say Pro? Okay.
Pro,
we're literally seeing this like 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, it just came out. Both of these are Pros.
Yeah.
So that would be a new
speaker grills,
smaller
speaker
13.
grills to the left and right of the machine. Don't know what. Oh, okay. That does look like a flatter MacBook Nothing style keyboard, given the spacing between keys. I could be wrong, but
it's also not rose gold, which hurts me.
Oh, it's crap. Well, I'm comparing what I'm seeing here to the MacBook Pro I bought this time last year, and those keys are definitely the size of the keys are definitely larger with narrower gaps between them, and it looks like they're dished slightly like the MacBook Nothing keyboard.
What do you have, a 13 or a 15, Andy?
I have a 13.
Does this speaker grill narrower than it is on the current 13? Feels like it is.
There is no visible speaker grill.
Yeah, it doesn't have these. This is the 15-inch has these.
I would show you, but I would have to unplug everything. But I'm sure there's still some pictures up on the Apple site of the current 13. I mean, it looks physically narrower, but I don't know if that's because if that's an optical illusion because of what might be larger keypads.
Because you're limited by the screen, and this bezel doesn't look particularly smaller, so it must be just. Or these are wider keys. Oh man!
If you look at the Magic Keyboard.
Remember,
Magic Keyboard.
Remember, the Magic Keyboard actually has larger keypads.
Right. It's a Magic Keyboard, a Magic toolbar, Magic fingerprint reader.
If that's true, that's disappointing. Deeply disappointing.
Maybe we'll get used to it. Maybe it'll have better travel.
It could be the next thing, not the same thing.
Yeah.
I won't go into a third time. It's just that it would scare me to go to the whiteboard and come up with a list of things about every Apple product I've recently bought where I have to say, well, maybe I'll get used to it, as opposed to this is exactly what I want. Right. This is perfect for my needs. And
if you're going to dock it to your brand new 5K GPU display, you just use a nice full travel keyboard like the one you've got there with the cherry.
Stop teasing me, Leo. I want that 5K display so badly.
Well, also, you'll just go to the Apple. I mean, if you're really keyboard buff, you'll just go buy like an Apple keyboard that has it also has the crappy flat keys.
Like Gruber's. So the Apple was a select.
I do think
the IBM Selectric too.
I do think really that Touch ID in a laptop is. I think Touch. I won't buy a phone that doesn't have Touch ID now. I want to know how they're securing it. That's going to be I can't wait for security now when they eventually publish a paper on it. But I would love to know how they're securing the reading of the fingerprint to a secure enclave through the hardware channel and into Mac OS, because Mac OS is not as locked down as iOS, but that has to be absolutely locked down. So that's, to me, is going to be one of the most fascinating stories here. Nice. Really,
but remember that there's a kind of a different set of rules here, because right now we are unlocking our unlocking our Macs by typing in a passphrase, and that's so super weak by guessing it and people who write it down and stick it somewhere. So I'm sure that Apple didn't compromise the security, but I'm sure that they factored in that there might be a different set of rules for something that is not likely to slip out of your pocket and you leave it behind on the subway.
Now I have this huge dilemma. Do I want to use my Apple Watch to unlock or my fingerprint? Because I have both options now. It's too many choices.
I still can't, by the way, use my Apple Watch to unlock. I thought, it was a bug. Somebody said, tweeted to me, oh, no, the new update to Sierra fixes that. Didn't. And it's because I reset my security questions, and it's not a 3-day hold. It's a 30-day hold.
Mine was 3 days. I don't know how you fell. I was listening to you talk about that. I don't know how you fell into a 30-day.
But I still can't.
Suspicious character alert.
I won't be able to till Election Day. But that seems to me a massive security flaw because, I understand a hold, and I understand a 3-day hold. That doesn't seem unreasonable in case a hacker gets your account and tries to change all this. But in 30 days, what if I'm trying to put two-factor on here because I'm being hacked or being attacked?
Absolutely. Now
I have to wait 30 days. That just gives the attacker 30 days to. You
can always call them. I mean, they're pretty good about that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I should call them. I don't care that much. I will be buying the new MacBook, so at that point, it'll be okay. Now, let us talk about the quarterly results. Some are saying that this will be the first annual revenue decline since 2001. Is that a big deal? It's a big headline.
Yeah. I mean, when you're making so much money month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, at some point you will not. I mean, remember the iPhone growth was astronomical. They were selling more iPhones every year than they sold all previous years combined. And at a certain point, you run out of. It's the same thing with Facebook. You run out of population.
And you know who doesn't think it's a big deal? Apple stock buyers, because the price is up 11% over the last 6 months, even though the last 2 quarters have been down.
They're anticipating higher than expected iPhone sales, I think iPhone 7 has proven hotter than a lot of people thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing we'll be looking at is iPhone sales numbers for Q4. That's the big quarter, right? This is the one that we're all very interested in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it went on sale in September, so I think it'll be trailing end.
Okay.
Of the last quarter. And also, Apple said very clearly that they were supply constrained, not demand constrained.
Right.
And that's also going to reduce.
So you've got July, August, and September in this quarterly result. And it was only September. Oh, you're right. It's only a few weeks of sales constrained by supply. How's that supply now, by the way? You can go into an Apple store and get any phone, can't you?
You can't get any phone. It depends on what color you want still and what area you're in. But I added a line because I got the Pixel phone the other day, and I wanted to have both of them in service, especially when I'm traveling for an event. So I went to add a line, and I was waiting in line, and the 3 people in front of me were buying iPhones, and the person behind me asked what color iPhones they had available. And that was all the people in the store at the time. Huh. So, I mean, they were servicing them. They were giving them iPhones they were setting up, so they clearly had them available, and they clearly had the customers in there who wanted them.
I will point out, by the way, that I did get the new Pixel XL, almost exactly the same size as the 7 Plus. Very nice camera. But this, especially the jet black iPhone 7, is industrial design-wise and hardware design and feel, it's just no contest. This thing feels so solid and nice compared to the Google phone. Now, the Google phone has... And the Assistant is mind-boggling. I mean, it blows everything else out of the water, including Siri. But is that enough for me to use the Google phone day to day? Especially since
I deny my data, so it's not.
Yeah, well, especially since iOS has improved a lot of the things I didn't like about it. The notifications now have gotten to the point where it's comparable to an Android device. What about you, Andy? You're still
a choice.
Yeah, you know what? And by the way, especially with Samsung falling by the wayside. It's really come down to iPhone or Pixel. Andy, are you still an Android daily driver?
Yeah, I'll say that I've been impressed enough by the iPhone 7 and by the improvements that iOS has made in the past 2 or 3 years that I'm not saying that I'm looking to switch, but I'm saying that I can see a reality next year. I bought my Nexus 5X last year, very happy with it. So I normally wouldn't be even thinking about buying a new phone for 2 years anyway. But I will be looking very, very seriously at iPhones next year. It's a Pixel. I'm going to be super curious to see what Pixel happens because there was this isn't an Android podcast, but I just did an Android podcast last night in which there's some teardowns and some reporting from Mars Technica indicates that Google's original plan was to have Huawei partner and build the phone for them. They backed out at the last second because they opposed to lack of branding, and they had to build the entire thing with HTC in 9 months' time instead of the usual 18-month cycle that a phone goes into. So it's not as though this is a cut rate phone by any means, but this is not necessarily what Google would have made.
Of Google's capabilities.
Right. This isn't a copy of another HTC phone, but nonetheless, it's essentially HTC. What kind of architecture can you adapt for us to make us our new phone? Right. So it's going to be a hell of a race next year. If the Pixel 2 is the first Google phone where nope, we started from zero, we designed everything, we did not adapt from anything. It will be super interesting.
That's what I'm waiting for too.
I actually am now. It's so close that I carry both. I don't want to carry 2 phones, but I carry both. I do like the camera in the Pixel, and especially in daylight. I do feel like it's a very slightly better camera than the iPhone 7. I miss the 2 lenses very much. The zoom in the iPhone 7.
Yeah, and portrait mode is shipped now.
And I'm going to ask you about that in a second because apparently I have no insight into how the portrait mode works. I made some things up that make sense to me, but apparently I'm wrong. So you're going to explain.
I didn't hear what you said, but you're usually pretty good on these things.
Well, I understand how technology works, so I made up what I thought was a fairly reasonable assumption based on, by the way, only having just started using it yesterday because that's when 10.1 came out. We'll talk about that too. But first I want to wrap up on the Q4 earnings, which we're going to get in half an hour. So you have half an hour to guess. Recode says Apple is about to tell us if it expects to start growing again. They will, of course, not show huge growth yet, but this is when they give advisement as to the next few quarters. And according to Ina Fried writing at Recode, she thinks that this will be the quarter that Tim Cook or the CFO, who's the new CFO?
Luca Maestri.
Luca Maestri will say, yes, we think because of this very, very successful iPhone 7, we're going to see growth next quarter. You think?
And it's a holiday quarter, so which is usually a big quarter for them. But again, it depends on in some quarters they get. It's weird to phrase like this, but in some quarters they get advantage. Like when you have a new product that comes out, when something comes out early or late, all these things can have massive influence. When you have Macs available or you don't have Macs available, when they come a month into the quarter or they come only a few weeks into the quarter, can make massive differences.
And of course,
which is why
this will be the month next quarter that the supply constraint lifts a little bit, which should mean really big sales.
And it's a full quarter of sales. But again, that's why it's better looking at companies like Apple and all tech companies, not on a quarter by quarter basis or even a year over year basis. But we want to take a longer view on these things. And that's something that Wall Street has very little tolerance for anymore. I
have to say, I'm very surprised. I thought there would be a negative reaction to the lack of the headphone jack. That is not apparent in any way at all. People really don't seem to care or are willing to put up with the dongle. I bought enough dongles that they're just on all my headphones. So as far as I am concerned, I have adapted headphones.
The problem that's come up is if you always use a headphone, you have those dongles and you're always prepared. If you never use the headphones, you're always using Bluetooth. It just doesn't matter to you. Right. But if you almost never use headphones, but then you go on a plane and suddenly want to plug your headphones in and never even realize that. Yeah, it's the occasional use people that get bitten. And that happened to Georgia last week where she got on a plane for the first time in like 3 months and suddenly realized she had no headphone jack.
I'm hopeful that the AirPods will solve this whole thing. I'm not, I went out and bought a lot of different Bluetooth headphones, including the pair you recommended, Andy, which I like quite a bit. I've got them to fit well. I bought, I wanted to give it a full test. I bought those expensive, like almost $400 Sennheisers that most people agree are the best quality Bluetooth headphones. By the way, they're not much better than any other, and I think Bluetooth is a limiting factor. So I'll be very interested to try the AirPods and to see how much I get laughed at for wearing them. Do you ever wear just one, Rene, and use it like a Bluetooth headset? Oh my God, he's wearing it right now.
Yeah,
all the time. He says.
Because I don't listen to a lot of music, and that usually surprises people. But I watch a lot of Netflix, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, and
it gets twice the battery life because each one has 5 hours of battery life, so I get 10 out of the same amount of charge. So it's terrific for me.
I may find myself doing that.
Also, the same company that made those the headphones that I recommended, they announced but will not ship until January a wireless no intercross headphone version of it. So just like the AirPods, 2 separate earpods that you plug in. It basically sends, of course, deadly signals throughout your head and your brain, and it has a recharging case so that it will give you. I think the numbers they were citing were something like 6 hours on battery and then 30 hours total before you have to recharge.
Does the AirPod do that, Rene? Do they talk through your brain?
Well, I mean, they both, there's W1 chips in both, and both chips talk. They sync together, but they're
independent, so they don't have to do that.
I also am powered.
Does the W now? Let me ask about W1.
That's what they want you to say. You've got Apple has signals going through your brain. You'll believe whatever the hell they want you to believe.
Somehow I like Apple stuff more and more as I use these AirPods. Does a W? Okay, and this is the other thing. Audio quality. Now, I understand the hardware in the AirPods is the same as in the wired earbuds, so I'm not expecting, massively improved signal range. But I do believe Bluetooth, because of a constrained bandwidth and so forth, doesn't sound as good as wired. And I'm wondering if the W1 will help, or is it just a pairing assistant?
It's both pairing and syncing because you have 2 independent speakers that need to be at the same time. So you don't want latency between the 2 earbuds, and they can function independently as well. So you want that sort of flexibility. To me, like I am the opposite of a golden ears. I am tone deaf and I don't understand sound well. And I have all these people in the accessibility community asking me if there's any latency when using voiceover. And I keep trying to test it, and I really can't tell. And I feel horrible about that. So I'm using these right now. They don't sound as good as the in-ear headphones that I usually use, which are Ultimate Ears. And I have plugged in.
So they don't sound as good as that. Yeah. See, that was my experience as well.
So they sound like earpods to me, like Apple standard earpods.
They're the same hardware. They're the same exact speakers and drivers.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, they're not terrible, and if it's just spoken word, they're more than adequate for spoken word.
Oh, they're fantastic for podcasts, even for music.
But when I listen,
music is great too.
When I listen to music, and I compare it with my $1,000 Hi-Fi Man electrostatic headphones, no Bluetooth headphone, even the $400 Sennheisers sound anyway.
I listen to music on the speaker on my iPhone, Leo, so I'm not going to comment.
Right. However, I'll point this out. I wear sometimes I wear hearing aids. I have Starkey Halo hearing aids, which pair with my iPhone. And one of the main reasons we were listening to the baseball game at a restaurant the other day. One of the main reasons I wear those is because audio from the phone goes into the headphones. Yeah. They're wireless. They're not full audio range because, as with all hearing aids, they're designed for voice, not for music. But what we wanted to listen to the ball game, we were at a restaurant, and Lisa said, well, let me just borrow one of your hearing aids. And it worked. We were both listening to the game while we were talking to each other. So to me, what the AirPods would offer is the same kind of flexibility where I could leave them in and use them for that kind of thing. And they'd still be much better than the hearing aids are in terms of audio fidelity. So I like
And the microphone is great. The microphone is so good that people think I'm using my iPhone when I'm using me.
Say
like,
that they can't
you've
tell.
finally gone back onto your iPhone.
So I could see, as dorky as it looks, and it actually doesn't look bad on you, Rene. I didn't even notice it until you showed us. I probably could see myself wearing that a lot. It looks a lot better than like the Jabra with the blinking blue light. You look like such a, Michael Douglas from
like
Wall Street character. You just look like an ass wearing them. But those you look like a hippie.
Look cute as a Borg. And these stay in. Like the usual earpods never stay in for me. And I didn't really realize it, but it's because that cord keeps pulling and pulling.
Right.
And these, I go walking in rainstorms, in windstorms, and they've been fine. Once in a while, they feel a bit loose. So I just, move them a little bit, and they've been great.
Yeah. That's one of the big challenges that you have. A lot of people that like when I wear earbuds, it's if I'm in the house, I'm listening to music on real speakers, or I've got one pair of really decent headphones that no Bluetooth can ever match. But I'm wearing these things outside because I'm going for a walk. It's not as though all the cars agree to stop going and all the dogs agree to stop barking. It's like there's going to be a noise all around me anyway. So unless I want to be so isolated with these like earplug headphones that I can't hear anything and I'll get killed by traffic, I'm not looking for the best fidelity. I'm not looking for a Budokan sort of experience. I'm just looking for good enough that it's not just the quality is not distracting me because it's so weak and so bad. And for that reason, it's these $12 cheap headphones that people buy that are corded. They're perfectly fine. The ones that come in the box, they're perfectly fine for a lot of people. And as we said when we were discussing this months ago, I don't think that it's going to be a big enough issue that people are not going to buy. People who plan to buy an iPhone are not going to buy the iPhone, but it is going to be something where it's like the deletion of the headphone jack. Deletion of the Ethernet port on the MacBook. It's not something that makes every single day terrible, but oh boy, the time when you wish it had it and it didn't, and that's when you're like, I'm dead. I would have an easy solution to this if this had the thing that it always had, but it does not have it now, and now I am sunk.
I thought I would really be angry about it, and and maybe it's because I got the Jet Black, because the Jet Black really is something special. But I just hold this in my, I love it.
My precious.
My precious. By the way, those Starkey Halo headphones are MFI. They're made for iPhone. Okay. I would love to see somebody, maybe Starkey, do an app that would basically, as long as I'm willing to wear those AirPods, make the AirPods full range hearing aids. It would, I guess, require using a mic, either the mic on the AirPods or the mic on the iPhone, and amplify the room as well as, I don't know. It just feels like that could replace my hearing aids, and at a much reduced cost. I don't even want to tell you what hearing aids cost. That is, talk about, whoo. I'm sure they cost that much for a reason.
Oh, and one nice thing is people were asking, if you go into the Bluetooth settings, you can change things like it'll automatically switch between microphones, but you could set it to left or right. And you could also change the double tap from Siri to play pause if you want, which costs you all the Siri commands. But I know some people are really fervent about their play pauses.
Yeah. No, I'll be interested to see how that works. I'm not sure which I'll choose on that. I find Siri more annoying than anything else.
For basic commands, it's great. Like I just say, like I'll double tap it and say play MacBreak Weekly, and it just goes to the podcast app and does it. And
I guess you learn what she's good at, and you learn what not to ask her anymore.
Well, it's also optimized for certain things. It's like each of the assistants from each of the companies are very different products, and you could tell like one's got a Pixar name, and one's got like a Star Trek computer name, and one's programmed like to be really good at this thing, and one's programmed to do it. That's why testing this stuff is so hard. I mean, Apple's obviously not as good at all the data aggregation as Google, but they're also optimizing for a different problem set.
Yeah. I can't wait to get them. I wish I could get them before my plane trip on Thursday. That would be a nice time. Let's take a break, come back with lots more to talk about. But first, I'll tell you one thing I am bringing on the plane with me, my Texture. Texture is awesome. You know, it used to be I'd go to the airport newsstand and buy a stack of magazines for the flight. Then, of course, things like Kindle came out, and now I can read books. But I love Texture. I get those great magazines, and I get them on my iPad or my iPhone or my Android device. And man, it is fantastic. The best thing of all with Texture, should I not tell you this? You can have 5 different devices per account. So Lisa has the Texture account, but I also have my magazines, and we have separate, even though it's the same account, we have separate favorites. I download my magazines. I love Texture. All the best magazines, 200 plus of the top magazines on your phone. And it's just like the actual magazine. So, for instance, I've been loving the election coverage in the Atlantic magazine. Read that religiously. Consumer Reports is kind of a must-have. I've subscribed for 40 years to Consumer Reports. Now I've got it on my tablet. I don't need to subscribe. National Geographic, People magazine, Rolling Stone. There's always something to read on Texture, and it's like Netflix for magazines. You're basically you're once you subscribe, you get unlimited access to these. You get everything in the current issue, page by page. You also get back issues. You get bonus features you can't get in regular magazines in print, like video. I would not subscribe to Adweek. It's very expensive, and yet, of course, we do follow the industry very closely, and so now I can read it on my Texture. Billboard, same thing. It's part of my Texture subscription. Bloomberg, Bon Appetit, even Boy's Life. If I want to see what's going on, who are those two characters, the good guy and the bad guy? Nervous and Norvis or whatever? I can follow them in Boy's Life. It's kind of nice. Canadian cycling. I'm never, ever going to cycle in Canada, but if I did... No. You're a cyclist. You'd probably love this, Rene. Canadian running is something I'm even less likely to do. Car and Driver. Here's one I don't read, but you might. CBS Soaps In Depth. If your show is The Young and the Restless or The Bold and the Beautiful, man, you're going to love this. Here's a poetry, literary, and creative writing magazine for teens called Cicada. Great cooking magazines. Now, see, that's another issue. I don't want to go buy a cooking magazine or subscribe to a cooking magazine, but I want to look for recipes, and you can do that across a whole bunch of magazines. I can't understand why every single person in the world does not have a Texture subscription. I love Dwell. I love to look at modern, home design and these beautiful homes. And because you're looking on a tablet, by the way, on the iPad, magazines like that and National Geographic and the photography magazines really are great. Much better, I think, on an iPad than a screened print magazine. Much, much better. So I could go on and on, but I won't. Go right now to Texture, texture.com/twid, and just try it free. But I warn you, it's so addictive that you probably end up subscribing. Texture.com/twit. Hello, Canada. Hello, Canada. I'm going to get that one. Hello.
Châtelain en français, Leo. Châtelain en
Châtelain
français.
en français. I don't know if that's in there. But
Yeah,
hello. Is it?
Yeah.
I'd bet you'd run through Canada if you were being chased by a moose, fella.
Oh, it is. It's in French. See, this would be really good for me to touch up my French, Châtelain. Avec ses reportages de haut niveau, ses articles santé et bien-être, ses chroniqueurs vedettes, ses contenus mode, beauté, déco et cuisine qui conjoint élégance.
Excellent.
Elle joint
And when you
d'audace.
When you run in Canada, you get the exchange rate going to metrics. It's good for your numbers.
It would be actually very good for me to get this and practice my French. That's cool. Anyway, I could go on and on, but I have. But I'll stop now.
Great service.
Yeah, isn't that a great idea? Andy has posted an unedited list of 50-plus iPhone 7 Plus images, including beautiful panoramas. It is a great phone, isn't it, Andy? And look, I bet that's with the zoom, right, Audrey?
Yeah, exactly. These are all unedited, so no cropping, no nothing. The rule that I held was that if any time that I needed to get close, I would have to throw away my usual rule book for using these phones, so that if I needed to get closer, I would have to zoom instead of necessarily getting closer. I really wanted to see what good the zoom would do. And boy, the only time I'm doing a separate review of the camera, separate from the hardware review, next week. But really, the only times that the iPhone 7 camera let me down was when it tricked me when I got into the headset that, oh well, I will do things that are deeply, deeply silly to try to do with a phone camera, and that in itself is a compliment because I just kept I quickly thought of it as just another camera.
It's a good camera.
The results I was getting, it's an exceptionally good camera.
Yeah.
It was really hard to trick it.
I went to the big city to take a bunch of pictures. In my case, it was Paris, and I was very happy. In fact, I was happier with my iPhone pictures than I was with my Leica Q pictures, which is saying quite a bit. Yeah, and while the Pixel, by the way, and I'm sure you'll do a Pixel album as well, is I would say as crisp, as superb in color rendition, sometimes even better, especially in bright light. Although that's an excellent image, boy. Just the detail there. I think the Pixel's auto HDR is pretty remarkable. It's tight, and having that two lenses really is handy.
And getting the wide color gamut that's managed everywhere from capture through device to exchange between devices to me is, again, one of those things I can't go back from.
Well, you're a designer, so you see that, you know. You are to color as I am to sound. Anyway, beautiful images. Thank you for sharing those, Andy. I really
I'm going to be posting when I still have a few more shots to get. I still haven't taken my squirrel pictures, so that's probably going to happen on Friday. But by the time I publish the camera review, I'm also in the process of editing and enhancing all of those same pictures, because I also want to kind of make the point that there's a difference between what gets shot and what happens after you spend 5 minutes tweaking something so that it looks exactly how you like it. But it's what impresses me is that almost any camera is going to take a great shot in sunset, beautiful lighting. It's when you start to say, well, here's an instance in which I'm not expecting this to take a good photo, but I'll be damned. I couldn't climb the White House fence to get closer as I should have, but I'll be damned. Not only the optical zoom, but this digital zoom was really, really good. Or in this low light, it was really, really good. So I
will offer you a few pictures from Bruges in Belgium, also with the iPhone 7. This was on an overcast day. But as an example, I couldn't have got that shot with the Pixel because it's zoomed using the 56 millimeter lens. And so I'm able to, and you can kind of get the sense when I zoom back out. What a lovely, lovely camera. And if you forget your camera, you don't have to feel so bad. You can. By the way, that's the difference in the HDR. This is I'm saving both the normal and the HDR shot, and it's subtle, but and that's one thing I like about it. The HDR is subtle, but it does make a difference. And
I think for me, that's the biggest difference is that, like, the iPhone 6s takes great photos. A lot of cameras take great photos. But for me, the 7 Plus, it lets me get photos I couldn't get with those other cameras. So it's not to take anything away from those cameras, but from the low light to the 2x optical zoom to the portrait mode, it's just shots I can't get on previous iPhones. And that makes a big difference to me.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. I specifically, I rushed to get a iPhone 7 before the trip because precisely the same reason you took yours to New York. I wanted to get those special images, and frankly, my vacation images from my iPhone are the ones I'll probably look at again and again. Just really nice.
And it's great. It's great to have that in front of you. Like at Comic-Con, that's my favorite week of photography ever. Just taking pictures of cosplayers, and it's such a valuable thing to have. I have the iPhone, whatever iPhone I have is like at my hip, because there are times where I've got this really nice like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of camera and lighting gear like on a belt or something, and that's what I take the really great pictures with. But there are times where I see someone coming along and I don't know if my camera. I just walked out of a dark place and now I'm in a light place, and I know that I can either risk that I can make adjustments on the fly fast enough that with a good camera, but if I take out the iPhone, I know that I'll get nothing less than a good shot, and I might even get a really great shot.
Even in low light, this is a picture from a restaurant that was fairly dim, and I know I'm making you jealous if you like Jamon Ibérico, but this is our favorite restaurant in Paris, Joël Robichon L'Atelier, and even in low light, this is fairly dark. The detail and oh man, now I'm getting hungry. Look at little hamburgers, little French hamburgers. You don't want to know. You don't know how much more those cost than Big Macs. Let's see. Moving right along. Thank you for those images. 90% of Apple chargers made for iPhone chargers on Amazon aren't. They're fake, according to Apple. 90%. Mostly sold by one company, right?
Yeah, that's such a huge problem on Amazon, and it's not just Apple chargers. It's like, unless you see something that is sold by Amazon, and like Amazon is the seller, you can pretty much count on that pair of headphones as a knockoff, or that battery as a knockoff. You absolutely cannot trust an item sold by a third-party seller on Amazon,
even if it says MFI. That's what's really frustrating.
Well, of course, because again, these factories in China, they make them to be they make them to deceive. I bought. I have like 4 batteries for my Olympus camera. And I kept getting caught. Oh my God, why is this? I just charged this. I know I just charged all 4 of these. Why did I only get like 60 pictures from this one? And only when I put all 4 of them side by side, and I saw that the lettering on one of them was not quite the right one, had the Olympus logo, same molding, same color, same everything. And again, that's why if one thing is cheaper than the others, there's a reason why. And that's why every time I'm about to buy something on Amazon, I always check, unless it's sold by Amazon. That's the seller,
not merely fulfilled by Amazon, right?
Not fulfilled by Amazon, but ships from and sold by Amazon.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they will get pissed off if they sold you an illegitimate product. They're not doing enough to clamp down on these knockoffs, though, through their third-party sellers.
Apple has filed a trademark infringement case against a company called Mobile Star. Amazon said they were the primary supplier of counterfeit products. Mobile Star not only illegally using its trademark, including the made for iPhone logo, but that the fake chargers had not passed safety tests.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah. You take a look at a teardown between a genuine Apple charger and one of these knockoffs, and it seems as though like the Apple charger basically has all of the computing power of an Apple IIe in it, with all of the stuff it's doing to make sure that it's charging everything correctly, it's tapering down the charge correctly. It's not generating too much heat. This is stuff that will burn your apartment or your house down if you're buying a cheap knockoff. If you buy an Apple product, it's been tested. This is the reason. Again, this is the reason why you're spending an extra $50 or $60 for that kind of quality, because it's there to make sure you don't have to replace every article of clothing and object you've bought in the past 20 to 40 to 50 years of your life.
Renee, I know at any moment you're going to get a press release from Apple, so don't hesitate to interrupt. And if you want to go and file,
33 minutes.
Okay.
33 minutes.
Okay. I have a Telegram bot that's the Apple PR bot. And whenever Apple issues a press release, I get a notification from Telegram. So I'll keep an eye on that as well. This is in the lawsuit. This is Apple filing. Over the last 9 months, Apple, as part of its ongoing brand protection efforts, has purchased well over 100 iPhone devices, Apple Power products, and Lightning cables sold as genuine by sellers on Amazon and delivered through Amazon's Fulfillment by Amazon program. Almost 90% of those products were counterfeit. 90 out of 100. So that really, as a consumer, so what are you saying? So I used to say, well, look for the MFI logo, but if that's being counterfeited and it's easy to do on a page,
right?
what you're saying, Andy, is make sure it says not only fulfilled by Amazon, but sold by Amazon.
Right, ships from and sold by Amazon.
Okay.
Because they're very careful with their sources. I think either way you can send it back for a refund. I'm not sure if I'd have to double check, but they have very good return policies. Certainly, if it ships from and sold by Amazon, no questions asked, send it back. You don't even have to have a reason, and they'll pretty much take care of you. But yeah, they'd be super, super careful. I got burned a couple of times, and it's just ugh.
Very, very good to know. Apple is going to Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. They're going to have some of that jamón ibérico. Really, that's sufficient reason.
That's the only reason to go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just go have some ham.
Yep.
That's everyone listening. That's no joke.
No, it's not a joke. It's the best.
It's not like
it's the
not
Kobe beef of ham.
It's not like you go to like Philadelphia and there are places that serve cheesesteaks. It's like no. If everywhere you go, there is a place that has a huge pock of Parma ham that will slice you off. There was a shopping mall near my hotel. I just went somewhere because I needed like some tape or something, and every orange Julius was a ham shop, and every Cinnabon was a ham shop, and it's like, and even when you buy like Lay's potato chips, like a little bag of Lay's potato chips, it's hamon flavor. It's like a specific kind of ham flavor, and it's not. And you think that it would taste just like every other like bacon flavor. No, it's the best ham flavored Lay's potato chip you've ever had.
Now, if anybody wants to give me a birthday gift, this is only $800. This is the entire ham, the leg, with the bone in it. But you can't stop there. You also have to buy me the very special hardwood ham holder that allows you to hold that leg and then slice it. So I'm just saying.
You don't. Part of the reason why you put $900 into a leg of ham is to show it off and sort of flaunt to the neighbors.
I will, if I receive this for my birthday, put it right here on the table, and offer anybody who comes in a nice thin slice of Iberico jamón. So why is Apple? Sorry, we really got sidetracked on that one.
Apple will release nothing next year that is as impressive in the world of phones as that ham is in the world of ham.
And to all the vegetarians watching,
it's a very good ham.
So why is Apple going to Mobile World Congress? Now, this is the place where currently, that's where you announce phones. Obviously, they're not going to announce a new phone this spring. What's the theory here? Why are they going? Do we know?
I actually hadn't seen the story until it was on the show today. Mercado, but
they have a
they go to CES. Depends who goes.
This is going to be a booth. They don't do a booth at CES anymore. So in Hall 8.1, they're going to have the App Planet stand. Now remember, they're doing a TV show, The Planet of the Apps. Do they have a program called App Planet right now?
That's the one that they've hired Will.i.am and.
But that's Planet of the Apps, right? What's App Planet?
Although the listing, you never know. I think the listing is probably the same thing.
It's the same thing. So what this might be is promoting the TV show? I don't know. We don't know.
Is it Mobile World?
Got me.
No. Yeah.
So they'll be in Hall 8.1, as well as two spaces in the upper level in the Fira Gran Via Conference Center.
Yeah. Also, it's Mobile World Congress is enormous.
Right.
It's not the same as like a small show, any show that's happening in the United States. It's like Apple would, by definition, dominate, and anything they do would disrupt the air of every other thing. That's actually a show where they can kind of almost be invisible and still have a rather large presence. So, who knows? I can't even guess.
So the numbers are in, and according to IBM's vice president of IT, Fletcher Previn, who, by the way, served as an intern at The Late Show with David Letterman and Conan O'Brien, so he knows how to do a presentation. According to Yahoo Finance, he could be one of the funniest IBM vice presidents the company employs, which is a very low bar. Macs are 3 times cheaper to own than Windows PCs. Remember, IBM went all in on Macintosh, offering Macintosh, encouraging people to use Macintosh instead of Windows 10 PCs. And he's the guy who did it. He's the guy responsible for basically turning IBM, which it's it invented the PC into a Mac house. And he said Macs were less expensive to support than Windows. At only 5% of IBM's Mac employees needed help desk support. 40% of PC. I shouldn't laugh. 40% of PC users needed support. At that time, 30,000 IBM employees are using Macs. Today, it's 90,000, and IBM ultimately plans to distribute 150,000 to 200,000 Macs to workers, which will make half of their employees Mac users. That is real. I think that's a huge
and what doesn't apply to
victory.
Well, maybe. I don't know either, but we did a bunch of research and saw that the resale value for Macs is typically way higher than a lot of their counterparts. So for companies that, either they can pass them down and get much longer lifespan out of them, or for smaller businesses that actually do want to resell them, they recoup a lot more of the value of those Macs than they would have of comparable hardware. So it's got benefits both in terms of lower support costs and retaining higher value.
He acknowledges the Macs cost more out of the, at the onset, 117 to 454 more dollars than a similarly configured Windows PC. But here's the ammunition you need if you want to convince your boss. Over 4 years, IBM saves $273 to $543 per Mac. So they save more than they cost. And, of course, their support costs are lower. It ends up being, according to Previn, $57.3 million more expensive per 100,000 Windows machines. That's 3 times the cost. And he says this is a conservative number, and it's the best pricing we've ever got from Microsoft. And employees are happier, 91% satisfaction rate. And that's one of the reasons that IBM is standardizing on Macintoshes. He does say he has some trouble getting the people who are using BlackBerries to give up their BlackBerries.
They got you on BBM.
They are 65% iOS, 33% Android. So that means 2% BlackBerry. Very interesting and useful ammunition for any IT person who wants to convince the boss that maybe we should consider Macintosh computers.
And that happened to me back when I still worked in enterprise. I was getting a brand new Dell top of the line because I was a designer every year, and it came with on-site service. And we kept needing the on-site service. We would go down and I'd wait a couple of days and they'd come in and they'd do it. And then the latest one shipped one year. It was when Vista first came out, and it shipped without supporting its own graphics cards, which just wouldn't boot. And we were waiting, and the IT guy said, "Why don't you just buy a Mac?" So they requisitioned me a Mac. I got a 17-inch MacBook Pro.
And the rest is history,
used it
ladies
after
and
that.
gentlemen.
And that computer, I used that for 2 years. They used to give me a new computer every year. I used it for 2 or 3 years, and then it got passed down. And I think we got 6 years out of that machine, which was much more than we got out of any of the other ones.
Well, you had to, because Apple never made new ones. I've got 4 years out of this laptop because maybe sorry,
era, I
shouldn't say anything, but maybe you'll be replaced Thursday. Happy birthday to the iPod. Its 15th birthday was Saturday. Oh, 2001.
It's nice to have these anniversaries to remind us that the product has not totally been canceled yet.
Well, it had a good run. 15 years is a long time.
Yep.
I now have more storage in my watch than I had in my original iPod. But anyway, that's nice. It's kind of interesting.
Fidel never have to work a day again in their lives.
That's true. Tony Fidel is the designer. Yeah. Here's the one that, and Rene, maybe you can set me straight. I was a little perturbed. First of all, we read stories that the memory, the storage on the 32 gig iPhone 7s is slower than the others. I don't know why that would be. Most people say, well, can you notice?
No, it's like this stuff is all incredibly complicated. So I want to say in advance that if people don't understand this, that's fine. They're not supposed to. It's an implementation detail. And there's a lot of things going on in terms of there's different kinds of flash memory that are mixed in there that have different characteristics when it comes to reliability. Like there's twin level and multi-level that can contain higher density data, but they lose efficiency faster because you're burning through more cell membranes. You have an advantage when you step up in terms of capacity. It adds more controllers to the mix, so you get higher parallelism. And that means the chips themselves are the same speed, but you're using more at once. So you can move greater amounts of data. It's like having 3 cars instead of 1 car. Each car is the same speed, but you're moving 3 cars at once. So depending, if you're only moving a few people, doesn't make a difference. Moving a lot of people, it does. Also, the testing apps for these are usually, and I don't mean this to be mean to the testing companies, but they're testing for specific things. And we used this last year when there was that controversy over the chips. If you have one Sprinter that's fast off the gate and one that's great on the end stretch, and you're measuring at different points in time, you'll get widely different results. So if you're throwing a test load at one of these and you're exceeding the cache on the smaller one because the caches are proportional, but not on the bigger one, you're going to get very different results even when the real world loads are not different in practice. And there's like 5 or 6 of these things that are incredibly dependent on what's happening at the moment. And when Apple builds these things, and they're not useful for doing like a video on showing relative speeds, because you're not going to get the performance in real life. The thing that counts in this is that Apple bases their internal criteria off the 32 gigabyte. Whatever is the lowest model is what they base the criteria on. So in normal life, you won't notice any difference. In certain tasks, you will benefit from the parallelism of the higher capacity ones, just because they're throwing more chips at the problem, the same way like you'd throw more cores at the problem.
All right.
But there's no slower phone. There's some phones that are faster under certain conditions, but there's no slower phones. It sounds like a dumb difference, but it's a difference people care about.
This one you're going to have to explain, though. I don't know if this is as easily explained away. In the United States, there are 2 models of iPhone 7. Yes. There's a CDMA model and a GSM model. Now, I'm not sure I'd go as far as TNW went and say Apple made 2 versions of the iPhone 7 and one of them sucks. But there's a distinct difference between the CDMA and the GSM models. The CDMA models use a modem from Qualcomm that does both GSM and CDMA. The others use an Intel modem, which is apparently slower. So you can tell, it's very simple. If you bought your phone from Verizon, Sprint, or you bought it at SIM Unlocked, you have the good one, the Qualcomm modem. But if you bought it from AT&T, or as I did from T-Mobile, you'll have the Intel model. You can also tell if you look on the back, the Qualcomm modems are A17 series phones. The Intel modems are A17 series phones. The Qualcomm modems, the good ones, are A16. I have an A17 series. And it does make a difference in terms of speed, but more importantly, when you get weak signals, the Intel modem doesn't perform as well. Now, this is the kind of thing you're probably not going to notice because you don't have 2 phones with you at all times. But it does seem like a significant difference. Yes?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't had as much. What I did when I was busy with all the SSD stuff, I talked to a lot of experts and got a lot of opinions and a lot of information, and then tried to figure out what was going on. And I haven't had that opportunity I've only started looking into it. I would not be surprised if there was a difference because Qualcomm has been making since Apple switched from Infineon.
Yeah, this is a new chip.
They've done all the iPhone radios.
For Intel.
Yeah, this is brand new, and Intel is brand new to being in the iPhone. And if they're not getting the performance that Qualcomm is, I would not be surprised.
Do you think it's software or is it a hardware issue?
I think it's both. So
could it be fixed?
The problem with Qualcomm is that they own CDMA. If you want to have CDMA in your device, you are paying, and I've heard rumors that it's exorbitant like full retail value, not even wholesale share, but retail share off the profits. And that's only because Verizon and Sprint in the US are stuck on them. It's a tax the entire world paid for 2 or 3 generations because of Sprint and Verizon in the US. So the world wants to get off this technology, and Apple doesn't want to have to they don't want to have to pay Qualcomm a huge percentage of profits for every phone sold around the world. But on the
unlocked phone, because they want the unlocked phone to work on CDMA networks, they do use the Qualcomm radio.
Absolutely. So I get the problem. So I think this absolutely could be a problem. I want to get more information before I say definitely. But the quality of cell reception is so dependent on so many circumstances. If you're standing 3 feet to the left or right, if what the weather is, how many people are on the tower in your area, that you would have to have 2 phones in perfect condition to notice the difference. And whether it makes a real difference to you or not, again, I can't say because I haven't looked at it enough yet. But I would be surprised if a normal person in normal working conditions noticed a huge disparity. I think you'd notice more going inside a building or moving, across a tower.
It would show up in the edge cases, and it would only show up if 2 people with 2 phones standing next to one another in a kind of one of these like cliff situations where you're right on the edge of getting a signal, which, by the way, is here in the studio. If you had the CDMA phone, you might be better off. It's hard to do that, though, because you might be on different networks. You're more likely to be on different networks, et cetera, et cetera.
And Verizon phones had a lot of trouble with the iPhone 7, and that got fixed with iOS 10.0.03, I think. So you're not immune to anything depending on what chipset you have.
Yeah. The recommendation then to get either the unlocked phone or the Verizon phone?
I would, if there's any chance that you were going to travel with your phone, I would just default to getting that one anyway.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going world, because a world phone, if you do any sort of traveling, is always a benefit to you. If you know absolutely you're going to be on AT&T and T-Mobile in the U.S., then you probably won't notice a huge difference. But
well, and one nice thing about T-Mobile, one of the things that makes this workable for me, because we get no signal from T-Mobile inside our building, but T-Mobile Wi-Fi calling works great. And so by the way, it's not on by default, which surprised me. So I had to turn it on in the settings in the iPhone, and there are a couple places you have to turn it on. Once you turn it on, though, you wouldn't know I don't get a signal. I get a great signal. John, John's using a Verizon phone with a T-Mobile SIM because Verizon doesn't lock their SIM slots. Is that working fine? Yeah. So I had to. This is the one I bought before I left, and I had to activate it using the AT&T SIM card. But once I had activated it, I took out the SIM card, put a T-Mobile SIM in, and it worked just fine all over the world. And John's still using it here, and it works fine. So it would be okay, I think, to get the Verizon phone and use whatever carrier you wanted. My
review phone is Verizon, and I stuck a Rogers SIM in it. I think a day later or 2 days later.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, good to know. And don't feel bad. And by the way, kudos to CellularInsights.com, because CellularInsights.com actually had the machine that tests this, which is a non-trivial thing, and why you're not going to see this story in every magazine. This is, but they were able to do it. And just one more little piece: if you wanted the phone that has the best wireless signal, get yourself a Galaxy S7 because it beats them all. It's better. The Galaxy S7 Edge is better than the iPhone 7.
Well, the entire body is radio transparent, so it's
it's glass.
It'd be surprising if it didn't.
The LG, then the Nexus. Now what they didn't test was the newest Google phone. They haven't tested that yet, so we'll have to wait and see on that one.
It's got a huge radio transparent window on top too, as I'd expect.
Right.
I'd hope
that it does. It has that big glass panel on the back. Right. It's ugly, but it's functional. Anything else that we want to say here? 15th anniversary iPod. Sonos speakers now available on the Apple Online Store. And, of course, that's exciting because soon you'll be able to use your Sonos speakers with your Amazon Echo. Someone made earrings to catch the AirPods when they fall out.
AirPod hammocks.
I have to see a picture of this. Do they have a picture? Oh, let's see. Here it is. Yeah, it is. It's like a little basket. Oh, that's terrible. I'm not wearing those. That would be silly. It's like a little garbage can hanging off your ear to catch the AirPod when it falls off. I guess it has to look like that. Okay, but
what if it were a neutral color that would go with more of your tops?
I'm just one of the new primitives.
Aquamarine is a very, very tough color to
just
match.
Stay away from Stephen Curry because he'll just. Most expensive in-app purchase ever. Apple Pay was used to buy a $1 million Aston Martin, a DB5, James Bond's car, 1964.
Was it Mark Newsom who bought it?
They used their fingerprint to authorize the purchase. That is right out of James Bond, right there, out of a movie, you know? All right, Mr. Bond, we must authenticate the transfer of $15 billion. British
you
automobile.
Expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to press.
Press to fingerprint. British automobile auction house Coys of Kensington sold it for £825,000. Please, sir, would you put your finger here? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, do pay attention, James. This is for your benefit.
Thank you, Q.
Now then, when you long press on the button, you simply get a list of your contacts. However, when you 3D touch, you prime the ROM, leave it behind.
This is CNET.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean the autoplay. Thank you, CNET, once again for annoying me.
We've put many of these same prototypes in Samsung Galaxy S Note phones.
And now from the Neiman Marcus catalog, you know, every year in the back of the catalog, they have something you can't afford but really want. A rose gold personal plane. to go with your rose gold phone, Rene Ritchie, and your rose gold iPad, Rene Ritchie, and your rose gold MacBook.
No, now it's jet black. It's too late. If only they'd had it last year, I would have totally have gotten it. But now I need a jet black jet.
It's only $1.5 million. It's,
You're going to want to keep that
Apple
plane in a
that.
jet because that glossy finish is going to get scratched.
It's a carbon composite.
Oh, that's the SR-71 was matte, right?
That's right.
Can't do glossy.
The stealth. All right. Yeah, you should get a stealth bomber to match your new phone. I like the piano black, and I have to say I'm going like Rene Ritchie commando on this. You inspire me, Rene. And while I am careful with it, I have not had any, as far as I can tell, micro. Josh Windish comes over because he's also got it, and he's got his like sheathed in a phone condom because he's really terrified of micro abrasions.
I've got them, but I own them like the Millennium Falcon. It's like, who wants a pristine mint Millennium Falcon? You want it gone through a few asteroid fields.
I'm careful not to put it down on scratchy surfaces, but I think it's and man, it feels so good. Did I mention that? Have I mentioned that?
Yeah. Rene, this is a good opportunity to ask you a question. At this point, are you Instagramming photos of your Apple devices on top of like concrete surfaces just to troll the people who get aghast every time that you post a picture like that?
Oh, I should do that.
Because if so, I totally approve.
I should do that.
So I did do one where I made people were so upset by it. And the thing is that if you put it straight up or down, it's not scratching anything. It's just going straight up and down on the surface. So I don't really worry about it. But people got so upset that I took a photo a couple of weeks ago where I actually had it floating above the concrete just in an attempt to make them feel a little bit better.
I do have to admit it's the worst fingerprint magnet ever. I mean,
yes,
it never ever. You have to get a rag and some cleaner to just before you show it off. It's got it's grease and.
But then it lights up the room, Leo.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Will they make? I'll be watching Thursday a piano. What do they call it? Jet black MacBook.
Yeah, jet black.
A jet black
I'd love
MacBook.
it. Or a matte black. I'd love a matte black MacBook.
Well, they've got they've got the machines now, right?
They got the space gray. So yeah.
I don't want no more space gray, no more rose gold for me. I'm all about the jet black.
Black is back, baby.
Man, I would be in line to buy a jet black MacBook. I really would. All right. We're going to take a break and then your picks. Get ready, folks. But first, a word from our sponsor, a fine Canadian company that I love, FreshBooks. FreshBooks saved my bacon. Back when I was a freelancer and I had to do invoices and I never did invoices. And then, you know what I learned? When you don't bill people, they don't pay you. And that was a problem after a few months. That's when Amber MacArthur told me about FreshBooks. She said there's this new Toronto company. They make invoicing easy. FreshBooks, in the intervening 12 years, has gotten better and better. They've just released their all-new version. FreshBooks Cloud Accounting Software, redesigned from the ground up, custom built for freelancers and small business owners. And it's so much more than invoicing. Your dashboard tells you exactly where you stand. We have an accounting firm. We have in-house bookkeepers. I have a CFO. So I can, they show me balance sheets. I look at it. I don't know what it means. But if you are on your own, you don't have a balance sheet. This will do it for you. It'll tell you exactly where you stand, what you've got, what you're what's out that you haven't been paid. You can cut, and it's just so sweet. Outstanding balances, spending. Track your spending. Do you know what your total profit is so far this year? I bet you don't. I bet you won't know till tax time. With FreshBooks, you will. And then reports that you need for your accountant for tax time, like your sales tax summary, your profit and loss statement. And, of course, it all is centered around invoicing. Beautiful professional invoices you can create in less than 30 seconds with your logo, color scheme of your choice, any image that reflects your brand. You can chat with your client regarding an invoice once they receive it. And if they said, I didn't get it, you can tell whether they did or not. You'll see not only which invoices have been sent, but which have been viewed and which have been paid, as well as overdue and outstanding invoice totals. You got to see the new FreshBooks. It is spectacular. Time tracking, of course. The FreshBooks app does all the things you need on the go. Get ready for the easiest, best way to be more productive and organized and get paid quickly. I know you didn't get in business to become a bookkeeper unless your business is bookkeeping. You got in business to do the thing you love, and yet you still got to do the books. FreshBooks does it, so it's like automated. It's so awesome. Try it free right now for 30 days. It's completely unrestricted. You get full access to all the features. To claim it, just go to freshbooks.com/MacBreak and enter the words MacBreak Weekly in the How Did You Hear About Us section. And you'll get 30 days free of the all-new FreshBooks. It's gorgeous. Now, if you're already a FreshBooks customer, you can stay with the old platform, or you can try the new platform, and I strongly encourage you to take a look. I was blown away. FreshBooks.com /MacBreak. We thank him so much for helping me for years and making MacBreak Weekly possible. Andy Anatko, do you have a pick this week?
A combination pick and tip. Now I have a.
It's not a pick; it's a tip. I'm sorry.
Well, no, there's something you can spend money on. It's I'm not letting you off the hook.
I'm teasing.
So these are the a lot of people have had the same problems with like earbuds that I have. They come with like a selection of like inserts. You can pick the one that fits the best.
I have a little baggie of all of those, right?
Right, but they're like kind of impossible. You have to pick the one that kind of feels not the worst, the least, so to speak.
Right.
And one of the problems is that like they're like here's a typical kind where they're just kind of so squishy where even if they're the right size for your ear, unfortunately they're not going to really they're not going to have a really tight seal. Like I didn't really like this. I didn't really like the sound on these earbuds until I really went through all the 8 different sets that they came with and found the one that was the best. But finally, I was getting bass. Finally, I was getting highs and lows. But they weren't terribly comfortable because of that super tight seal. So here's the tip that was just brilliant. I just found this tip last week. There's this miracle compound called Sugru, Sugru, and what it is this rubber that doesn't cure until it's exposed to air. So it comes in these little like soy sauce packets, like a vacuum sealed, and then when you tear it open, it's this malleable clay-like material that you can mold and you can sculpt, you can stick to things, and you have like at least 20 minutes to 15 minutes to work with it until it starts to harden up. But when it hardens, it turns into hard rubber. So here's the tip. What you do is, now you notice that here are my new and improved earbuds.
And I have those, and I like them, but they're not super comfortable. If
you look closely, you notice that they're not perfectly round, because what you do is you take one of these like earbuds, you turn it inside out. I can't do it. I can't demonstrate the old one. What you do is you turn it inside out. You put it on the earphones, and then you take just a little like line of Sugru, roll it around there, roll it back on top of it, and then jam it into your ear. So what happens is that if the rubber will deform, hold it in the shape of your ear canal, and so you get something close to a beautiful custom fit. There are some tips, and that's exactly how easy it is. Because again, look how soft it is because you've just taken out of the package. Sugru has like a million uses. It's like if you have this around the house, you will find it'll be a solution to emergency, and it'll be the perfect solution. But just you stick it in there, you leave them in for about a half an hour or so until like it starts to really, really firm up. They fully cure in 24 hours, but then they will hold that shape. It will be completely tight seal, and that's the difference between having beautiful full music and comfortable stuff that you can wear all day long.
I'd heard of people doing this. I thought they put the Sugru into their ear.
Yeah. Which is bad.
Don't
really
do
bad.
that.
You don't want to do that. There are actually, if you Google, if you're listening to this and you don't look for the link in the show notes, you just Google for it, you might see, hey, all I had to do was like jam a whole tube of Sugru in my ear,
do that.
and then jam. Yeah, you're not supposed to have prolonged skin contact with the Sugru.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like you have to put even a little bit less than you might think you have to do. But once you roll it back over, the Sugru is completely contained within the earbud.
That's a good way to do that.
Exposure to your skin.
Yeah.
And I've been wearing.
You want the silicone on your skin. You don't want the Sugru on your skin.
Exactly. This is a special kind of rubber that will not irritate your skin. Yeah. But like I said, it's perfect. It's night and day. I wish I had this tip a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when I started wearing these things. You'll be shocked at how beautiful this is. And I found this when I was searching for. I've heard that you guys were talking about like taking like earbuds to like an a hearing aid center, and they will like mold.
Well, I do that. I'm wearing very, very expensive in-ear headphones. That's exactly what they do. You go to your audiologist and they mold that to your ear. That's what musicians wear, But
right, and I've been thinking about doing the same thing, and then I found, wait, I can do that with Sugru. It's like, no, they're not telling me to squirt that stuff in my ear. Like, no, they're not. They're telling you to do something that is super. So you make
a very thin little Sugru snake that you put underneath the silicone. Then you put it in your ear, and it molds the silicone and the Sugru underneath it. Once it hardens, that's the shape that the silicone's going to maintain.
Right, so it's not like it's not like a filling in your entire ear canal with rubber.
No,
but basically it means that instead of being, given that you probably don't have a perfectly round ear canal, this will gives us enough firmness, and it adapts to the shape of your ear. So this will be perfectly suited. It'll be perfectly suited to block out outside noise. And like, if there are people who like looked at the reviews of these headphones after I recommended them and saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, the sound is tinny and there isn't any bass." Well, that's someone who just basically put on the pair of earbuds that was prefabbed on it and did not swap them out for any of the others that were included. You really have to pick and the other tip is that don't assume that your ear canals are both the same size and shape on each side. My left ear was like, I couldn't wear these for more than like 2 hours because my left ear would start to hurt because I had the same size earplugs in there. Then I switched this to a slightly the smaller size of this, and now that's absolutely.
So you have heterogeneous ears.
I contain multitudes. Yes,
I never thought of that. Most people don't. The same thing with their feet. And so, but I never thought of that. So, because I have the same problem, and I can't quite get the right fit on those earbuds that you recommended. But that may be because I might also have heterogeneous ear holes. Heterogeneous? How do you say that? Heterogeneous? You got to say it right or it sounds wrong. Thank you, Andy. Good Sugru tip. And since you're getting a pack of 8 when you buy Sugru, and you'll only be using 2 of those, my second suggestion is to watch iOS Today was it last week? When Megan Maroney used Sugru to show you how to make a little handy-dandy iPod headphone adapter dongle holder.
Yeah, they're amazing. And also, I mean, you've it's a million household uses. Like you're used to, like I don't know why the rubber that Apple uses on their connectors tends to rot really, really quickly. We all have like cables we had to throw out because like
yeah,
exactly. You can just wrap Sugru around it, even as a preventative measure. And you can reclaim a $30 cable that's still electrically perfectly good and extend the life of a brand new one. It's just, you just buy this. Again, you'll use one packet. It's a little bit wasteful because once you expose one packet to air, you have to, this is why before I did the earphone trick, I lined up like, here are 4 other things I would like to use Sugru on, including I have these 2 cables I want to repair, and I also want to see if I can mold it around one of the hooves of one of the Holstein's toys to see if I can make like a stand for it, because you're going to lose, because the entire wad of Sugru in this packet is going to turn into hard rubber. You need
to other find things to do.
It'll all go to waste unless you find something to do it. So even if you just want to see, I wonder if I can stick this old TV remote to the cat's collar.
Wow, Apple earnings.
Sugru will even do that.
Apple earnings just coming in now, right, Rene? Oh, his mic is muted as well.
Sorry, I apologize. I hear me typing.
He's doing an iMore podcast about the earnings.
He's doing 2 podcasts at once.
46.9 billion of quarterly net income, 1.67 diluted shares. Where are the numbers? Trying to find the iPhone numbers. I think here we go. So 45.5 million iPhones, 9.3 million iPads, 4.9 million Macs. Sorry, 9.3 million iPads, 4.9 million Macs. So they made a little bit of money again.
They beat the street once again.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and they beat We beat iPhone estimates.
They're very good at that. They always seem to beat the street. Rene, your pick of the week.
So I have two. I was going to pick the AirPods, but we talked about those so much that I don't want to dominate the conversation.
You can pick them. No, we haven't had your review. Give us a review.
So I put a link in there. I did a first impressions because I'm using pre-production hardware on pre-production software, so it's not a final review. But I've really loved them, from everything from outdoor walking to using them in the car, using them while walking around. They've just been absolutely fantastic for me. I didn't think I'd like them because earbuds have traditionally not stayed in my ears, but because of the lack of cord, they've worked great. The sound has been good enough for me. The microphone has been exceptional for people who I'm talking to. But the really good thing is that W1 chip, that once you connect it to your iPhone, that connection propagates to your Apple Watch, to your iPad, and to your Mac. It doesn't do that with the Apple TV yet because that's a multi-person device, not a single-person device. But they're Bluetooth, so you can connect them to your Apple TV, to your Android phone, to all of those things. But it really just shines. Like, I'm using them on my Mac now. I didn't have to do anything. It was just there. I hit the button and it just worked. And I've done that with my iPad. I've done that with my Apple Watch. So they stay in sync really well. And I think anybody who's been looking for a good pair, if you're into sports, you might, I've whipped my head around and they've fallen out. They haven't fallen out in normal use. So maybe like the Apple has the Beats ones available already with the W1 chip, and there'll be more on the market soon. So you will have options available. But for anyone who's just looking for, what side is it? Right there. Just looking for something to take, something wireless, something to cut the cord with. I think they're fantastic. And I also wanted to briefly mention portrait mode because that shipped yesterday.
That was going to be my pick. So stop.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to stop right there. Not a word.
Leave something for the rest of us.
AirPods, they'll be on sale this week, and I recommend them.
They have to be, right? You don't have any, or do you have inside knowledge?
No, Apple said end of October, and this is the end of October.
Hold them to it. Yeah, I can't wait to get one. So I wanted to mention that if you haven't updated Sierra, OS, iOS, Mac OS, Watch OS, all of the OSs were updated yesterday. And we got 10.1 on iOS, and that came with a new portrait mode. But actually, I want to do this in conjunction with you, Rene, because I have lots of questions. So first of all, it says it's beta, right?
Yes.
So the way you can get into it is as with all of the special effects in photos, but there's a new one now. You'll see portrait, and and you have to be, how far? It says move farther away. How far away do you have to be to get portrait to work?
I think it's 8. Like, I've done it in less than that, but I think 8 feet is what it optimally wants from you.
And then now this is, I'll show you some images. This is the one we actually updated on iOS today. This is a picture Megan took of me. And the whole point is, like with a DSLR, you get the foreground in crisp focus, but they blur the background somehow. Here's one. Now, I'm saving both. So this is without portrait turned on and with, so you could see the difference. And for instance, this is a good example. That ugly spray can rag over Megan's right shoulder, it kind of disappears when you turn on portrait mode. I did one, I think, a great picture of Lisa using portrait mode and it looks more like a DSLR, right? It's because that's kind of one of the distinguishing features, the shallow depth of field of DSLR. Now, here's how I posited that it worked, and you're going to correct me. So my theory is they've got two lenses. So what it looks like is the foreground is the telephoto, the 56 millimeter lens. And that's it. They make that in perfect focus. At the same time, they capture, I'm assuming, an image with the second lens, and they can make that one out of focus, and then they just merge the two. That's not how it works, apparently.
No, so it's sort of, so what they do is they use, it is using mainly the portrait lens, the 2.8 aperture portrait lens on the iPhone. So the second of the dual camera.
And that's
system.
why you have to be 8 feet away, because it's using the relatively telephoto lens.
Absolutely, and also why you need light, because that lens is, it's not as low as the as the 1.8 aperture lens. But they really want you to think of this as one lens system. They don't want you to think of it as it's got two lenses, yes, but they're using it like one camera system, and they're abstracting a lot of it away. So it takes that picture and then it compares the two, and it uses that to create a depth map. And I think Matthew Panzarino from TechCrunch said it's a 9-layered depth map, and then they apply a custom disk blur to that depth map, but they do it gradually. So items that are closer get less blur than items that are further away. So it does create more of a natural looking blur filter. And you can feel it'll get warm because it's pegging that A10 processor to do all that disk blurring.
So it's actually, so it's doing a lot more than I thought it was. Why don't they just do it like I said?
Well, I mean, so this is just the beginning. Like it's in beta, but they're doing like it's called portrait mode and not depth effect because it's really optimized for faces right now. It does a lot of facial detection and pets because pets have faces. It does a lot of facial detection to try to find the edges, and it's better. It's obviously better with faces. It's really bad with reflection still because it can't tell the reflected image from the background. But it's got its strengths and weaknesses. But it's like you said, Leo, it's that emotional effect, and they even did a lot of work on how they show the noise, like the grain that they apply to the noise to make it look more like sort of an old school picture that you'd get on a dimly lit, New York street corner or something than what we're used to with digital photography. And it really is about focusing your eye on what matters to you and getting pictures of things that you really like and not a technical thing. They really want it to be like sort of an emotional effect.
Well, and here's an example. If you look at this image I took of Megan, this is without portrait on, and with it, of course, the background gets blurred. But look at her necklace. That's also getting blurred. The microphone is also getting blurred. What's not, it's doing face recognition and saying this is the thing not to get blurred. So if I had just looked more closely at the image I was using, I would have seen, oh, yes, it's clearly not a two-layer image. It's doing more than that. So
yeah, and you'll find errors if you look for them. But the idea is like it's sort of like you love the people that you love, and they always look great to you. Is that if it has a lot of emotional impact, you're more forgiving about the little areas in it. So the people who love it tend to be the more emotional photographers right now.
And this was something that wouldn't be possible without a two-lens system and a 56 millimeter.
Yeah, and it'd be easier if the lenses were further apart. I mean, because then they get greater depth information. So it's what they're working with.
Also, I think Apple made a very smart decision. By default, it will actually write to storage an unmodified photo and one with the depth effect, so that if you don't like the depth effect image, you still have a perfectly good image, but exactly what it would have taken with the 2x lens on its own.
We wrap things up with thank you, Rene. Thank you, Andy. I knew you would be able to explain this in a better way than I was. And I do want to wrap it up with a final note of congratulations to our colleague Brian Lamb, who created a site we all love, the Wirecutter. Self-invested, he bootstrapped it with his own money, made a site that we have all referred to many times as the place to go if you want to find out what the best whatever is. They also created a home product version of this. And yesterday it was announced they had sold the Wirecutter and its Sweet Home partner to the New York Times for $30 million. And it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Everybody loves Brian Lamb. He left Gizmodo to create the Wirecutter and bootstrapped it with his own money. So I'm thinking he's getting some big chunk of change for that, which is fantastic. And I think the Times is probably going to be a good steward of this. We want to see it continue to do the really great work they do. I guess Brian is sticking around, by the way. So, in fact, they tweeted, hey, we're still us. We're just part of the New York Times now. So congratulations, Brian. That's really great news. Andy Anako, Chicago Sun-Times, CWOB.com. Always a thrill. Thank you for being here. Don't forget Andy's other podcasts. He mentioned he does one about Android called Material on replay.fm. You can also hear Anako's Almanac on 5x5.tv.
Should make a note. The Anako Almanac is ending. I recorded the third to the last episode. There are two more, but there is a new show that's going to be starting on Relay FM that I hope the people who like the Anako Almanac will like just as much.
Nice.
So stay tuned. If you unsubscribed because you had not seen a new episode in 4 months, you might want to resubscribe because there will at least be 2 episodes that will explain what's going on.
Well, I'm glad I mentioned it then. Thank you, Andy. Rene Ritchie does more podcasts than God, although he says fewer all the time. And when I say God, I mean me. No, I don't. That was terrible. Go to imore.com, and you can, of course, see all the stuff that Rene Ritchie does and find more of his audio stuff when you click the hamburger menu and select podcasts, including their brand new one, Apple Talk, which is a really great and must-listen-to show for anybody who's into Apple stuff. Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Andy. Thank you all for being here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say we'll be back next Tuesday, but even before then, we'll be back on Thursday. I won't be here. I'm going to be watching, but not participating to our live coverage of the Apple streaming event. They'll announce, we think, new Macs. Tune in a little before 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern, 1700 UTC. Andy will be here. Megan Maroney will be here. And I've forgotten again who will be the third person. What? It doesn't matter. Tune in.
Howell and Alex Lindsay.
Alex Lindsay. Why did I forget you, Alex? I'm sorry. We'll look forward to that. And we'll be back 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time next Tuesday to analyze everything that Apple announced. And maybe I'll be back with a new MacBook Pro. That would be nice. That would be very, very nice. I'd love to do an unboxing on this show. If you can't watch live, you can always join us on demand at twit.tv/MBW or wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Make sure you get every episode. You don't want to miss a one. But now I'm sad to say it's time to get back to work because you know why? Steve Gibson's waiting in the wings and break time is over.